You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1345 1345 Chapter 314 Return Gift, Wangying Requests Monthly Subscription, 3. Alright, leave this matter to us. It's not a big deal. Don't worry. By tonight, the entire capital will know that Shan Xiong is the #1 killer in the world. He has killed mountains and seas and fought the sun and the moon. Isn't this too exaggerated? Bai Junxing whispered, isn't this too exaggerated? No one will believe that he killed mountains and seas and fought the sun and the moon. Then we'll kill Ling Yun and fight the mountains and seas. Is that alright? This guy should have the ability to kill some of the weaker Ling Yun. Otherwise, the 9th level of the Soaring Heavens realm wouldn't have any deterrence. That's fine. The few of them muttered to each other. Wu Lan quickly stood up and said, alright, that's it then. If the few of you really can't do it, I'll have to come up with an idea. If it were Fatty Xia, he would have long taken care of it himself. Fatty Zhu, you're not as powerful as Fatty Xia. Zhu Hongliang was depressed. Get lost. Was it Xia Huyo? This fellow was here as well. At least he wasn't as fat as Su Yu, and he didn't look good either. What was there to say? Su Yu couldn't be bothered to care about Wu Lan spreading rumors outside. In Daming Mansion, he wasn't worried about anything. In the basement, Su Yu looked at Ling Yun in front of him. He said bluntly, let's self-destruct your origin aperture. It's fine, your sea of consciousness won't be damaged. Those who can rebuild their bodies can at most start from scratch. It won't be that easy to die. In front of him, a Ling Yun realm powerhouse's face was pale. Besides Su Yu, the 3 mountain and sea demons were all present. Su Yu's face was calm. Here, you'll die sooner or later. There's no way to live. Self-destruct your origin aperture and show me the effect. Maybe there's still a chance to live. Let's gamble on the probability. The face of this Ling Yun realm disciple of the 10,000 races was pale. Lord Su, if I self-destruct my origin aperture, can I live? It's hard to say. Su Yu said calmly, it depends on luck. Of course, if there is any result, I will give you a chance to survive. Then, what purpose do you want me to achieve by self-destructing? To find the location of the primordial spirit aperture. Su Yu did not hide it, it's like this. I have a speculation now. When the primordial spirit aperture self-destructs, a certain amount of power will burst out. If the traction is enough, perhaps it can draw out a power that I named the Yang aperture. Of course, it's not a random self-destruct. That's useless. He thought for a moment and quickly said, you have to self-destruct towards the center point. All the apertures should form a circle and self-destruct towards the center point. Let's see if you can draw out the force. You have quite a few openings. 108 of them. You can be considered a little genius. You're also at the Ling Yun realm. If you self-destruct, you might be able to release a relatively powerful force. The man's face turned pale. Sir, to reassemble a body requires some treasures. If I really self-destruct, my willpower won't last long. Su Yu nodded. That's nothing. Blood essence and heaven origin chi are the best treasures to reassemble a body. It's just recovering a body at the 1000 June realm. It's not a big deal, and it's not reassembling to Ling Yun. After saying that, Su Yu smiled and said, how about we give it a try? Count it as a merit point. When you guys reach 10 merit points, I'll let you guys go. I won't go back on my word. 10 merit points. In other words, he would have to kill himself almost 10 times before he would have a chance. It was just a chance, not a certainty. This was because Su Yu still had to keep his word. The face of the Ling Yun realm in front of him turned paler and paler. In the corner of the basement, Swan Ni and the mountain ox were circling around. At this moment, their eyes were filled with sympathy. Fortunately, we are weak. How terrifying. Now, Suyu had even forced Ling Yun to self-destruct. He had no intention of subduing them at all. Previously, they had locked up quite a number of people. They thought that Suyu wanted to subdue these people. In the end, all of them were used as test subjects. It was permitted to test out techniques on death row prisoners. How pitiful for these believers of the 10,000 races. Suyu didn't have the mood to bother with them. Those two fellows had been on the verge of advancing recently. They would often come and ask the three great demons about some things to take note of when advancing. These two were too weak, and Suyu couldn't muster up the energy to bother with them now. After a long while, Ling Yun's face turned pale as he said, "All right, I agree, sir." It was either he died or he agreed. It was that simple. Suyu looked like he was easy to talk to, but in reality, Shan was more difficult to talk to than anyone else. He did not treat them as human beings at all. Despite their young age, he was extremely cold-blooded. Previously, he had already killed a few rebellious people. The people of the Great Xia Mansion had this attitude towards the followers of the 10,000 tribes. They treated them as animals and killed them. Animals were still valuable, but the followers of the 10,000 tribes were not. Suyu smiled. "That's good. Listen to my arrangements. I'll let you explode however you want." As he said that, he turned to look at the three great demons and said, "I want to observe it closely. Seniors, please protect me so that I won't be injured by the power of the self-detonation." "All right." The three great demons were secretly speechless. He was really ruthless. This kid was so young. He was ruthless, but he was really ruthless. They didn't know where he got his killing intent from. He looked like he was used to seeing life and death. Even though there were many ruthless people in the Great Xia Mansion, there were actually very few people like Suyu. Their expressions didn't change. Many of those who had achieved this step were old men who had killed countless people in the army. Suyu was too lazy to explain. Very quickly, he gave Ling Yun a few words of advice. How to explode, which aperture to start from, and what kind of reaction he should make after the explosion. He just wanted to see if he could detonate his yang aperture. 108 apertures, Ling Yun's third level. Such a person's self-detonation was quite powerful. Very soon, a loud boom was heard from the secret chamber. The three great demons all released their pressure, suppressing the self-detonation area within a small area. As for Suyu, he was in front of Ling Yun, who had self-detonated in grief and indignation. He watched indifferently and sensed that the flame of civilization was activated. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1346. 1346 Chapter 314 Return Gift, Wanjianzhang requests to subscribe to monthly 4. Silently observing and carefully experiencing, Suyu frowned for a moment and relaxed for a moment. It seems a little, the power of the explosion isn't enough. Suyu casually grabbed, and some blood essence and heaven yuan qi gathered. Soon, these blood essence and heaven yuan qi began to outline the shape of a human. The next moment, a person opened his eyes. His face was devoid of blood, and his eyes were dim. "I'll give you a merit point." Suyu casually said this while he was still studying the power of the explosion and the feeling that disappeared in a flash just now. It's still not enough. It needs at least 144 origin apertures and above. Ling Yun, who has 144 origin apertures and above, such a powerful self-detonation of Ling Yun might draw out his yang apertures. He had some feelings, but they were extremely vague and unstable. "I have to detonate the power of the mountains and seas," Suyu muttered, "or Ling Yun, who has 108 of them. It's a pity that all of them were killed last time. It would be best if they were at the 9th level of Ling Yun." It seems like it would be best if we can capture some of them. Otherwise, we might as well capture those at the mountain and sea realm. The few great demons had a toothache and were speechless. This kid had been going crazy recently. He wanted to capture the mountain sea realm to blow it up for fun. He was a ruthless character. If he really had sufficient strength one day, those who offended this kid would probably not have a good ending. There's still something missing from the primordial spirit aperture. Su Yu shook his head. It seemed like he could only temporarily give up on this aspect of research. He lacked research materials and enough people to self-destruct. Nearby, in the other prisons, everyone's faces were ashen. In Su Yu's place, it was better to just die. However, death was not that simple. If they were not afraid of death, they would have died long ago. It was because they were afraid of death that these people were unwilling to die. The instant Su Yu was about to walk out, an expert in the prison knelt down and shouted, "Sir, Sir Su. This lowly one is willing to serve, sir." Su Yu turned his head to look and smiled. You're even weaker than Swan and I. Trash, what do I need you for? Unless I need to experiment, I'll consider you sometimes. 10 points for meritorious service, I'll let you go. Without saying anything else, he waved his hand, and the cells were all sealed and soundlessly emitted. At the door, the two great demons carefully hid their bodies, afraid that Su Yu would discover them and implicate them. In the end, Su Yu still saw them. He wasn't blind. Seeing the two great demons cowering in fear, he was a little speechless. If the two of you can't reach Ling Yun within a month, I'll definitely send the two of you to Yueshin Island. Head Nyo said that beef with swan knee's brain is a famous dish. I can taste it. Definitely. The two great demons were almost sweating. It was too scary. They were really going to eat them. They believed in Su Yu's words. This fellow was a very realistic person. When he needed you, he was a friend. If he didn't need you, and he didn't owe him anything, then he could do whatever he wanted. There's also the Water Man and Shadow. Your injuries have almost recovered recently. Cultivate well and enter the mountain sea realm as soon as possible. Su Yu calmly said, if you can't keep up with my strength, then it's fine if you're my friend, but not my friend. It's just a simple business relationship. Sooner or later, you'll be eliminated or die because I might encounter some dangerous things. If you're not strong enough and you're killed, then there's nothing I can do. After saying that, Su Yu walked out of the basement. In the basement, the few great demons were speechless. Eliminated? Dead? Perhaps, it really wasn't far away. After leaving the basement, Su Yu continued to enter the cultivation room to cultivate. Ling Yun's self-detonation just now had given him some inspiration. Power. If his own power wasn't enough, could he use external power to activate it? As for Shan Xiong, I'll wait for a few days. Just as Su Yu was continuing his closed-door cultivation research. In a large courtyard near the 100-Path Pavilion. Shan Tianjiao said excitedly, Brother Shan Xiong, did you know? I just went out and everyone was talking about you. They were all praising you. I thought that when I arrived at Daming Manor, everyone would target you because Su Yu was there. I didn't expect everyone to praise you. Praise me? Dan Xiong was looking at the manual, which was related to the 100-Path Pavilion. When he heard that, he smiled and said, praise me for what? They said that you once defeated Huang Tang and Qin Fang. Is that true? Shang Tianjiao said excitedly, why didn't you tell me? Huh? Dan Xiong was slightly startled. That was not the case. Who said that? Everyone is talking. Shang Tianjiao said excitedly, when I went out just now, I met that Wu Lan, a member of the Wu family of the Great Xia Manor. Her expression was terrible. Her nostrils were facing me, and she almost hit me. It's not a big deal to say that you defeated Huang Tang. Huang Tang is not a civilized master. I could smell the jealousy from afar. Wu Lan. Wu Qi's younger sister. Dan Xiong wasn't familiar with Wu Lan, but he knew Wu Qi. When he heard this, his heart skipped a beat. Shan Tianjiao continued, that's right, she already said that. She's a member of a great Xia family. She even admitted that you defeated Huang Teng. Now, no one can deny it, and Huang Teng has no choice but to admit it. Dan Xiong was speechless. After a long while, he said, it's a misunderstanding, a misunderstanding. I've never dealt with Huang Teng and Qin Fang, let alone fought them. After some thought, Dan Xiong said, it's not a good thing. I didn't have much conflict with Huang Teng and Qin Fang. They are fighters, and I'm a civilized master. Now that it's spread like this, the Great Xia and Great Qin will know that it didn't happen. If it spreads, it won't be good for me. A misunderstanding? Shan Tianjiao was slightly startled. Dan Xiong nodded, yes, it's all fake. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1347. 1347 Chapter 314 Homecoming Gift, Wanding requests to subscribe monthly 5. After saying that, he thought for a moment and said, was it from Wu Lan? Or was it from Su Yu's side? I don't know. Dan Xiong exhaled, he sighed and said, then if we fight against Su Yu, if we don't defeat Su Yu, then the Divine One faction would really be a disgrace. We even unintentionally offended a group of people. Unless after defeating Su Yu, we find an opportunity to defeat Huang Teng and Qin Fang and confirm everything. As for an explanation, there wasn't much need. Since he didn't say it himself, then there was no need to explain anything. He looked at Shang Tianjiao and asked, you didn't go out to spread anything, right? No, I came back to tell you when I heard the news. Brother Shan Xiong, isn't this a good thing? Shan Xiong smiled and said, not really. Of course, if I defeat Su Yu, then it's actually nothing. But if I lose, forget it, let's not talk about this. You don't have to get involved in this. Everything still depends on your strength. He did not mention this again, but he still reminded Shang Tianjiao not to go out and spread this. It was meaningless and she had even offended someone. She was just looking for trouble. Was this Su Yu's handiwork? Was he afraid of losing, or did he feel that he would definitely win? He did not think about it anymore and continued to read the manual. He wanted to go to the 100 Dao Pavilion and give it a try. And at this moment, someone entered the door. When Zhong knocked on the door and entered, he smiled and said, Ta Shan, junior brother Su has already agreed to your challenge. In 5 days, on March 25th, we will have a sparring session in the academy. As for whether it will be a life and death battle or a normal sparring session, we will talk about it after junior brother comes out of seclusion. Shan Xiong frowned slightly. Senior one, does Su Yu really like life and death battles? Then I am not sure. When Zhong smiled and said, Ta Shan, you should make good preparations in the next few days and familiarize yourself with the environment of the academy. In addition, if it is a life and death battle, the elders of both parties will have to sign it. I am only responsible for reporting the news. I am not sure about the rest. I understand. Thank you for your reminder, senior. Dan Xiong didn't say anything else, but Shang Tianjiao hurriedly said, why would a life-or-death battle be necessary for a normal sparring match? When Dan Xiong challenged experts from more than 10 manners, it was a sparring match. He didn't kill anyone. Although she said that she believed that Dan Xiong could win, what if? What if he lost? When Zhong smiled lightly and said, Princess Shang, I'm not sure about this. Let's discuss it after junior brother Su comes out of seclusion. But when Zhong ignored her and turned to leave, Shang Tianjiao was a little angry. She looked at Dan Xiong and said, a life and death battle. This is too dangerous. Why don't we? Dan Xiong shook his head and said, "It's fine. People might not necessarily die in a life-and-death battle. Don't mind it too much. This is also a battle of imposing manner. The imposing manner will first suppress you. Once you reject it, it will be a defeat in terms of imposing manner. I'll consider it carefully. Tianjiao, don't worry about me. Don't lose your sense of propriety." "I know, but I'm still worried. I'm really fine." Shan Xiong smiled and looked at a building in the distance. That was the famous Primordial Spirit Research Institute. Suyu wants to enter closed-door cultivation for 5 days. Is it to grind down my imposing manner, or is there really something that requires me to enter closed-door cultivation? Shan Xiong took a deep breath and used this time to make a trip to the 100 Dao Pavilion. Perhaps there would be some gains. Even before the battle, he felt a trace of pressure. He hoped that there would be a good result. The news of Suyu accepting the battle quickly spread out. March 25. In Daming Civilization Academy, the two of them were fighting. Whether they were fighting to the death or sparring, it was still unknown for the time being. For a moment it was as if it was the new year in Daming Academy. Once again, there was an uproar. There was another big show to watch. Unfortunately, it might not be open to the public this time because the academy might only be open to students and some higher-ups. This time, it made many people disappointed and depressed. And time passed day by day. The Daming Civilization Academy gradually became the focus of many people. It even suppressed some major events. The news of a genius would always attract more attention than some people who weren't geniuses. For example, Bai Feng, who wasn't considered a genius, was attacked by the Myriad clan religion on his way back. Both sides fought and killed each other, and a mountain and sea was killed. Such news didn't attract much attention. Of course, the mountain and sea that died was from the Myriad clan religion. In a wasteland. Bai Feng was eating barbecued meat, and it didn't feel good. *CK. I was fighting to the death here, and my disciple was sparring with someone. Before it even started, the news of my genius returning was completely suppressed, and not many people paid attention to it. Even the Myriad clan sex attacks were reduced. According to Xia Yinqi, there might have been a group of experts who had gone to the Daming prefecture. Of course, this time, they would definitely be 10,000 times more careful. However, these experts might be hiding near the Daming prefecture. They had to think of a way to watch the battle of the geniuses. As for killing Bai Feng, killing him wouldn't be of much use. Besides, the sun and moon might not be able to pull him out. It would be better to give up. Bai Feng didn't feel good, and Xia Yinqi and the others didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Fine, their preparations were in vain. They might really not be able to catch any big fish. Bai Feng's weight wasn't heavy enough. If it was Suyu, he would definitely be able to catch a big fish. Of course, he might be able to catch a big fish that couldn't be dealt with. That was fine as well. It was fine as long as they returned safely. It was just that the great Xia Manor had made a lot of preparations, but in the end, they didn't catch anything. Along with the news spreading, in the blink of an eye, the 25th of March arrived. On this day, Suyu walked out of the cultivation room. It was very calm. Defeating or killing Shan Xiong actually wouldn't change the overall situation. However, Shan Xiong had crushed the confidence of many people in the divine literature department. He, Suyu, had to take it back and help his teacher fulfill one of his wishes. Weren't there two wishes? One was to deal with Shan Xiong, and the other was to take care of Huang Teng. Teacher, I'll treat it as a return gift for you. Suyu looked towards the north and smiled. It was about time for you to return. I've calculated that today, you should be able to return to the Great Xia Manor. As for Huang Teng, if there's a chance, I'll help you beat him up. He beat you up 3 times, so I'll try my best to help you beat him back. He changed his clothes and his white robe fluttered in the wind. Suyu smiled and was very satisfied. Shan Xiong, then let's have a look. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1348. 1348 Chapter 315 Crushing Defeat 1. The Daming Civilization Academy was very large. There were many places suitable for fighting. However, the Academy's fighting spirit was not as strong as that of the Great Xia Academy. Usually, there were very few sparring sessions. The main reason was that the students sparred with each other. The 100 Techniques Court was where the Academy's largest arena was located. The 100 Techniques Court was where the sparring sessions were held. At this moment, a huge arena had been isolated from the surroundings. This arena was surrounded by water. Outside the arena, a circular long corridor was built. It was like an 8-trigram diagram. One by one, the paths connected to the platform where the arena was located. At this moment, the circular corridor was filled with people. I heard that Suyu has gone into seclusion. Has he come out? It can't be that he's not coming, right? There are quite a number of people who have stood him up in the arena. When these words were heard by some outsiders, they were extremely depressed. So, in the Deming Mansion's arena sparring, standing someone up was the norm. Did they not have any sense of honor? I heard that Shan Xiong went to the 100 Dao Pavilion and passed the 50th level yesterday. I don't know how many levels he went up, but his name appeared on the 50th level. 50th level? Is that for real? Some people were shocked. They obviously didn't know about this news. The 40th to 60th level of the 100 Dao Pavilion was Ling Yun's territory. The 50th level was usually a boundary point, the boundary point of the 7th level of Ling Yun. Last time, Suyu gave up when he reached the 49th level. And the last time Wuxia came, he also reached the 49th level. Wuxia had already entered Ling Yun. The 100 Path Pavilion's assessment was aimed at Ling Yun. It was considered an ordinary level and wasn't considered a genius level. However, even if it was an ordinary level, it was still shocking enough for a 9th level of the Soaring Heavens realm to reach the 50th level. He had crossed 7 small stages. Suyu can do it too, right? Last time, he seemed to have reached the 40th level and had yet to break through the soaring stage. Now that he has entered the soaring stage, there is still hope for him to reach the 50th level if he tries again, right? I'm not sure, they are all geniuses. Sigh, geniuses are always strong. Compared to them, our Tiandu Mansion's Ba Jun can't do it. That's right, there doesn't seem to be any particularly powerful geniuses in Daming Mansion. Huang Teng from the Great Xia Mansion, Qin Fang from the Great Qin Mansion, Shan Xiong from the Great Zhou Mansion. Nonsense, Suyu isn't from our Daming Manor. Alright, you're right. Even if he is, it's not a big deal. The experts from our Daming Manor have lived long enough to torture these geniuses to death. The students continued to discuss and discuss. At this moment, on the other side of the ring-shaped corridor, in a group of higher-level circles, Zhu Hongliang, Zhu Qinyan, Shang Tianjiao, Bai Junsheng, Wu Lan, these people were all present. At this moment, the atmosphere was filled with hostility. Shang Tianjiao looked at Wu Lan angrily. You purposely said that brother Shan Xiong defeated Huang Teng, didn't you? Wu Lan ignored her. She was slightly taller than Shang Tianjiao. She raised her head and did not look down, as if she did not see her. As for the other party being the great Shang King's granddaughter, what was the difference? She had only just entered the sky. She was even a year older than herself. A year later, no, if it wasn't for the primordial spirit scripture technique, she would also be able to enter the sky. What was so great about that? She had always been like this when she treated those who felt inferior to her. She didn't really care. It wasn't like she had never seen an invincible descendant before. Xia Chan and Xia Huyo were the same. She didn't think highly of them either. At this moment, Xia Huyo was not far away. Xia Huyo also saw Wu Lan's reaction. He held back his laughter and did not say a word. When Shang Tianjiao met Wu Lan, unless she beat Wu Lan up, she would be able to anger herself to death. There was more than one person in the great Xia mansion who was almost angered to death by Wu Lan. Her younger sister, Xia Chan, had been in a depressed mood recently. Wu Lan had ambushed her before she left. Naturally, she did not scratch her hair or tear her clothes. However, Wu Lan's attacks were also dark. She punched Xia Chan until her nostrils were bleeding. She had almost turned her nose into the sky. It had been so many days. Whenever Wu Lan was mentioned, Xia Chan wanted to kill someone. Fortunately, she was in seclusion this time. Otherwise, if she had come, there would have been a chaotic battle. There were quite a number of invincible descendants here. The others were either elites of the academy or descendants of Sun and Moon. Wu Lan's identity was not considered noble in this place. However, this woman was as usual. She did not think much of it and did not bother with it. After Shang Tianjiao said another sentence, Wu Lan looked down at her from above. After a long while, she said, "You talk too much nonsense. When I'm in the air, I'll fight with you. If I can't kill you in 3 moves, I'll apologize to you." Shang Tianjiao's face turned red. "I'm asking if you did it on purpose." Wu Lan thought for a moment and nodded. On purpose. She couldn't take it anymore. "Wu Lan, don't go too far." Wu Lan continued to look down at her through her nostrils. "Are you crazy? You said yourself that your brother Shan Xiong is amazing. He's so amazing, but he didn't defeat Huang Teng. Is that considered amazing? He's younger than Huang Teng. Then Su Yu is younger than him." Wu Lan pouted. "You're older than me too. You're already so old, yet you still don't dare to accept my challenge. When I enter the sky, I'll kill you in 3 moves. Do you dare to accept my challenge?" The others didn't make a sound. They even subconsciously distanced themselves from these 2 people. These 2 people weren't speaking on the same channel. They were both troublemakers. The crux of the matter was that these 2 troublemakers weren't to be trifled with. Although the Wu family was quite lacking, with only one Sun-Moon realm expert, the relationship between the Wu family was a little complicated. On one hand, they were close to the great Xia manor, and on the other hand, the Wu family was a descendant of the great Wu king. Although the great Wu king had died in battle. However, the great Wu clan's strength was not too weak, apart from the fact that they were no longer invincible. Wu Lan had said that the great Wu king was her ancestor for 8 generations. Although they seemed to be quite far apart, when it came to the generation of Wu Lan's grandmother, they were not that far away from the great Wu king. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1349. 1349 Chapter 315, Crushing Defeat 2. The current mansion master of the Great Wu Mansion was rather close to the Wu family. As the Wu family's contact person, the relationship between the Great Wu Mansion and the Great Xia Mansion was rather close. As the 2 of them talked, Shang Tianjiao was so angry that she wanted to vomit blood several times. She felt that she was arrogant enough. After all, she was an invincible descendant. In the end, she met someone who was even more arrogant than her. What was there for Wu Lan to be arrogant about? In terms of status and strength, Wu Lan was inferior to her. What was there to be arrogant about? The surrounding geniuses ignored these 2 people. Zhu Hongliang had unknowingly appeared beside Xia Huyo. The 2 of them were fat, but compared to them, Xia Huyo was no longer fat. There was no comparison and no harm. Zhu Hongliang was much fatter than him. "Brother Huyo, I heard that you have a good relationship with Su Yu." Zhu Hongliang laughed softly. This time, brother Huyo, did you come here on your own accord, or did the great Xia manor do it on your own accord? Xia Huyo also smiled and said, I didn't mean anything. I just came to watch. The battle between the two geniuses is between our generation. I want to broaden my horizons. Brother Hongliang, aren't you curious about who will win? I'm curious, but I'm not that curious. It's normal for anyone to win. As they chatted, the other geniuses in the surroundings began to listen attentively. However, even after listening for a long time, they still couldn't make out anything. The two fatties were just spouting nonsense. As they chatted, a green-robed Shan Xiong walked over from afar. Beside him was Jiang Tao, who was muttering to himself. Soon, Jiang Tao left. Shan Xiong didn't stop either. He continued walking towards the arena in the center of the lake. Shan Xiong, who was dressed in a green robe, looked handsome and sunny. He stepped onto the arena and looked around. He cupped his hands slightly and smiled. Then, he started to wait. He's so handsome. He's also very powerful. Do you know that he has reached the 50th level of the 100-path pavilion? This is the strength of a 7th-level Lingyun cultivator. He's too powerful. If he's not powerful, how can he defeat Huangteng and Qin Fang? That's true. Around them, the students of Daming Manor were whispering to each other. Many of them were girls. In the genius area, Shang Tianjiao looked at Wu Lan proudly. Wu Lan continued to ignore her. She glanced at Shan Xiong and muttered in her heart. She felt that she was not as good-looking as Su Yu. Shang Tianjiao's eyes were really blind. While everyone was discussing, Su Yu, who was dressed in a white robe, slowly walked over with a hint of elegance. From a distance, he saw Shan Xiong. Shan Xiong also looked over at Su Yu. The whispers around them disappeared. Su Yu nodded slightly at Shan Xiong with a smile on his face. Those who weren't familiar with him didn't care about his smile. Those who were familiar with him, such as Xia Huyo and the others, felt their teeth ache when they saw his smile. The brighter this fellow's smile was, the more malicious it was. It wasn't a thing. On one side of the arena, there was a single section of a ring-shaped corridor. At this moment, many experts were standing within it. Niu Bendao sat by himself with a teacup in his hand. He said with a smile, these two brats are both geniuses. Whoever is injured or killed is actually a loss. What do you all think? Jiang Tao, who had just rushed over, said with a chuckle, what Principal Niu said makes sense. Junior brother Dan has always had a kind heart. A few days ago, when he sparred with others, he only injured people but didn't harm them. Junior brother Dan rarely kills people. Even if he wanted to kill, he would only kill the enemies of 10,000 races. As for Su Yu, he did not say anything. However, everyone knew that Su Yu had killed many people, and they were all humans. There were also some geniuses among them, such as Zhai Feng of the Great Xia Mansion. Besides Zhai Feng, Su Yu had also killed some people, such as the students of the 10,000 Races Academy, such as Zhou Pingsheng and the others. This fellow was not a good person. In comparison, Shan Xiong was much kinder. Niu Baidao smiled and did not reply. At the side, Wen Zhong said softly, Assistant Instructor Shan is indeed kinder. If it were a normal challenge, it would actually be a good thing for him to defeat those junior brothers and sisters from the Multiple Divine Languages Department. He would let them know that there is always someone better than them. However, sometimes, what is even worse than killing someone is killing the heart. He did not say much. However, Shan Xiong's challenge was not simple to begin with. He had used the might of the Great Zhou Manor to force some of the Multiple Divine Languages Department to ban it and withdraw from the Battle of Shan Duo. Wen Zhong did not know what Shan Xiong's original intention was, but he was the blade that the single Divine Literature Department had pushed out, the heart-severing blade. Jiang Tao said indifferently, there is no junior brother Shan, but there are others whose skills are inferior to others. What talk about heart-severing or not heart-severing? In the past, the many divine literature department was powerful and defeated countless single divine literature department experts. No one talked about heart-severing or not heart-severing. Wen Zhong did not say anything else. He smiled and nodded. It could be considered that he had passed this point. Su Yu, who was walking towards the arena, did not care about what the others said or how they discussed it. He slowly walked up to the arena and was more than 10 meters away from Shan Xiong. He smiled and said, "Greetings, senior brother Shan." "Greetings, junior brother Su." Shan Xiong returned the greeting and looked at Su Yu. After a moment, he said, "Junior brother Su, do you have any ideas about the sparring rules?" Su Yu smiled and said, "What do you think, senior brother? Don't go too far." Shan Xiong smiled and looked at Su Yu. "Sparring?" Su Yu's face was full of smiles. "Don't go too far. Isn't it too Buddhist? That's too boring, and there's no way to use all of your strength. Also, how about a little more bet?" Previously, when senior brother Shan defeated others, the various divine literature departments were disbanded. How about this? If I lose this time, how about I disband the Primordial Spirit Research Institute? Shan Xiong slightly raised his brows. "Junior brother, the various departments of the multi-divine literature are disbanded, it's not." Su Yu waved his hand, "Senior brother, we are all bright people. We understand people, why bother explaining? You are strong, you defeated them, and they feel ashamed. Disbanding the multi-divine literature department is also senior brother's ability, and I don't have the mood to stand up for them. However, senior brother's original intention was probably to go to the Great Xia Manor to challenge my master, Bai Feng. Is this correct? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1350 1350 Chapter 315, Crushing Defeat 3. Shan Xiong nodded slightly. Senior brother probably also wants the Great Xia Manor's multi-divine literature department to completely disappear. Since that's the case, then there's no need to say those hypocritical words. Su Yu smiled and said, "I can't be the master of the Great Xia Manor. The only thing I can do is my own master. Senior brother, are you willing to gamble?" Shan Xiong was silent. At this moment, over there, Jiang Tao's voice came from afar, "Su Yu, since you're so confident and are willing to take a gamble, why don't you raise the stakes? There's no need to dissolve the Primordial Spirit Research Institute. If you lose, how about taking out the divine literature battle technique steel that you brought with you?" Su Yu turned his head to look and said with a smile, "Senior brother Jiang, what divine literature battle technique steel?" Jiang Tao calmly said, "Since you said it yourself, there's no need to say anything hypocritical. There's no need to deny it. Otherwise, this steel is on Chen Yong's body. Now that Chen Yong is outside, the danger is not small. If the steel was on Chen Yong's body, then the person who killed Chen Yong would be even more determined." Su Yu was silent for a moment and then smiled. He nodded, "Senior brother Zhang's words make sense. The steel is on my martial uncle's body, and it's indeed easy to cause some trouble for martial uncle. Then, it's on my body. If I win, what can you give me?" Jiang Tao was silent for a while before he asked, "What do you want?" Su Yu smiled. "I want too much, and I'm afraid you can't afford it. However, since senior brother said it, then I'll give you a price. I think senior brother should know what the divine literature battle technique tablet in my hand means. 100 drops of blood essence of Sun Moon Realm, 1,000 drops of Mountain Sea Realm, and 10,000 drops of Ling Yun Realm will do." When these words were said, everyone was in an uproar. Su Yu really dared to say it. 10 Sun Moon Realm, 100 Mountain Sea Realm, 1,000 Ling Yun Realm. They were all gods and devils. This was the price he had to pay. Was that divine literature battle technique steel so valuable? All the universities had it. Jiang Tao also frowned slightly. After a long while, he said, "It's fine as long as it doesn't limit gods and devils." These words once again caused an uproar. Not limiting the gods and demons was also extremely terrifying. To kill many sun, moon, and mountains and seas, regardless of whether they were gods or demons, this was a huge amount of wealth. Niu Baidao and the others didn't say anything. Suyu smiled and said, "If you don't limit the gods and demons, then you have to double it. Otherwise, it's not equal." I think senior brother Jiang knows what I mean. Jiang Tao wanted to say more, but on the other side, Dan Xiong sighed and said, "Wouldn't a sparring without stakes be more pure?" Suyu smiled and said, "Is a sparring between you and me purer?" Senior brother Dan, are you lying to yourself? Or do you think that you started from the south and your sparring was just for sparring? If that's the case, it's enough for you to defeat one person. Why do you have to go through one residence after another? It's not an exaggeration for you and I to call each other geniuses. Since that's the case, is there a need to defeat another person of the same level and multiple divine languages department? Aren't Huang Teng, Qin Fang, and the others more interesting than those of the same level? If not, aren't primitive gods more interesting than this? Pure. Dan Xiong was silent. After a while, he nodded and said, "You're right. I'm not pure to begin with." Suyu smiled and looked at Jiang Tao in the distance. "How is it? Do you agree?" Before Jiang Tao could speak, Niu Baidao coughed lightly and said, "Suyu, do you have this thing? Don't fool people. Everyone is watching." Did he? Obviously, he knew that Suyu had it. However, this thing still needed to be discussed. If he used it as a wager, what would happen if this kid really lost? Then he would be in big trouble. Suyu was not weak. As for Shan Xiong, he had killed his way to the 50th level. This kind of strength was also shocking. He might not necessarily win. Of course, if he really won, then Jiang Tao would not dare to mention the wager. Suyu smiled and said, "Mansion Master, if I say no, no one will believe me. Then I might as well say I have it." "You." Niu Bendao smiled and said, "Little Jiang, it's just a spar between young people. Don't overdo it. Are you going to empty the Great Zhou Mansion's treasury? If you really lose, won't that be a big trouble?" After saying that, he smiled and said, "A small bet is good for one's mood, but a big bet is bad for one's health. How about this, once the victor is decided, the two of you can just bet 100 merit points to have some fun." Suyu could not help but laugh, and Dan Xiong also laughed. Dan Xiong looked at Suyu, he smiled lightly and said, "Principal Niu is right, there's no need to play so big. How about this, if I lose, I'll go to the heavenly battlefield and kill 10 Lingyun realm gods for you. If you lose, it's the same." Suyu laughed scornfully. "Dan Xiong, is it interesting?" Dan Xiong did not say anything. Suyu said calmly, "If you can go, can I go? There are many people who want to kill me." "There are not many people who want to kill you, right?" Dan Xiong fell silent again. "Since you don't dare to play big, then play something else." Suyu said playfully, "Gamble on resources. If you don't dare, then gamble on reputation. There's no need for you to do anything. If you lose and you're not dead yet, you can announce that you're at the entire human realm. You can go to all the academies one by one and stand in front of them. You can tell everyone that it's better to have more divine runes than just divine runes. I can't represent the single divine text faction." Dan Xiong refused. He couldn't represent them. Suyu sneered. "Then forget it. This won't do either. It looks like, you can only be a fighter. You can't do anything else. Living like this, you're like a puppet. Is there any meaning to it? Are you much better than me? Dan Xiong laughed. Su Yu said indifferently, of course. I'm much better than you. I'll only do what I'm willing to do. If I'm not willing, no one can force me. Can you do it? Shan Xiong thought for a moment and laughed. That seems to be the case. After chatting for a while, Su Yu seemed to have lost interest. He said directly, there's no need to talk about life and death. One side will admit defeat. If they don't admit defeat, then life and death will be decided. If they admit defeat, then victory will be decided. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1351. 1351 Chapter 315, Crushing Defeat 4. Dan Xiong was silent for a moment before nodding. Sure. As for the bet, since you're not willing to represent the single Divine Pros faction, then let's bet on what you can bet on. If you lose, I'll strip you of your Divine Pros. If I lose, all my Divine Pros will belong to you. How about that? Su Yu calmly said, without the Divine Pros, there will naturally be no so-called Dan duo who is stronger. If you lose, you will no longer be a single Divine Pros faction. If I lose, I will no longer be a multi-Divine Pros faction. Perhaps this is also a good opportunity to get rid of the fight between Dan duo. Dan Xiong gave him a deep look. Your divine text battle technique has drawn out quite a lot of divine texts, right? It's not bad. It's just 18 divine texts. Since you say so, then I agree. When these words were said, the expressions of those experts were somewhat complicated. Betting their lives, betting on the divine texts. Even if they did not lose their lives and lost the divine texts, to them, Su Yu had lost 18 divine texts. It would be difficult for them to draw them out again. Even if they drew them out, how long would it take for them to reach Tier 2 or Tier 3? If they were to deprive the divine inscriptions, their vitality would be greatly damaged, and their willpower would be severely damaged. They might even be crippled. In the future, one of these two divine inscription system geniuses might have to walk the path of the physical body. To these geniuses, this might be even harder to bear than gambling their lives. Jiang Tao frowned slightly. He actually still wanted to obtain the divine inscription's combat technique steel. However, Niu Baidao had interjected. The possibility of obtaining the combat technique steel was not high. Furthermore, if he were to lose, the price he would have to pay would be too great. He didn't want to bet on this. He wanted to bet on Shan Xiong's divine inscription. This was also a huge problem. If Shan Xiong really lost, even if he didn't die, the special divine inscription he had nurtured would be gone. Even if he were to outline the divine inscription again in the future, the path of divine inscriptions might also be crippled. Jiang Tao thought for a moment and was about to speak, but Shan Xiong looked at him and said with a smile, "Senior brother, can I make the decision myself?" Jiang Tao looked at him and sighed lightly. He didn't say anything else. The atmosphere gradually became more serious. Su Yu and Dan Xiong didn't say anything else. Niu Baidao looked at them, he said, "The two of you are both geniuses of the human race. I hope that the two of you will stop here. If you really lose, it won't be shameful to admit defeat. Who can be undefeated? No one can remain undefeated. Someone as powerful as the great Qin King was defeated even when he had just become invincible. Rising up in adversity and standing up in adversity is more important than a momentary victory. 100 arts of Tao can all lead to Tao. I hope that the two of you will listen." It was hard for Niu Baidao to judge who would win. At this moment, he said these words from the bottom of his heart. They were all rare geniuses of the human race. If anyone died, it would be a huge loss. Speaking up to this point, Niu Baidao said, "Both of you are experts. There's no need for a referee. Since both of you want to spar, let's begin. Just as he said that, his aura was shocking. Boom! The lake water boiled and waves surged into the sky. Like two radiant suns, qi and blood burned in all directions as Yuan qi swept over. A loud boom. On the stage, the two of them retracted the moment they touched each other. Su Yu retreated a few steps while Dan Xiong retreated 7 to 8 meters. His golden left hand was slightly bruised. Junior brother's physical body is really strong. Dan Xiong sighed emotionally, but his heart was filled with vigilance and shock. His physical body was really strong. At the very least, he was much stronger than him. One had to know that he was an expert with 144 apertures and 18 cast physical bodies. Even among the fighters, he was also one of the top ones. In the end, when their physical bodies collided, he was a level lower than Su Yu. The surrounding people also let out low cries. This was a probing exchange. For the first time, Shan Xiong was actually at a disadvantage. Su Yu's physical body was so strong that it was a little terrifying. "Senior brother, please excuse me." Su Yu smiled. In the next moment, the two of them collided again. In the air, rumbling sounds were continuously heard. It was extremely fast. At this moment, most of the people in the air could not see their shadows clearly. Only Ling Yun and those above the mountains and seas could see them clearly. A small portion of Ling Yun's teeth were sore at this moment. F***ck, why did he feel that the power of these two people's exchange of blows was stronger than that of an ordinary Ling Yun? This was not an exchange of blows in the air, nor was it a civilized master. These two people's bodies alone were comparable to some of the Ling Yun realm. The rumbling sounds continued. In the blink of an eye, the physical battle came to an end. With a bang, Shan Xiong fell from the ball of light, blood oozing out of his mouth. Su Yu, on the other hand, was extremely calm as he floated in the air. "Senior brother, your physical body isn't strong enough. Let me see senior brother's Tao of divine inscriptions." Shan Xiong took a deep breath. His physical body really wasn't strong enough. He felt that his physical body was strong enough, but reality proved that the gap wasn't small. His martial techniques weren't as strong as Su Yu's. "Then as you wish." At this moment, a powerful willpower swept over. A long sword was held in Shan Xiong's hand, and Shan Xiong's entire aura changed. Powerful. His battle intent boiled. His eyes also shone with a golden light. His original body of flesh and blood suddenly became somewhat illusory. That was the effect of the divine text. At this moment, Shan Xiong seemed to be not in this world, but wandering in another world. His speed was even faster this time. It was unbelievably fast. In a flash, he appeared in front of Su Yu. He thrust his sword out. Su Yu's punch struck nothing but air. With a poochie sound, the long sword pierced through his fist. Blood dripped down. Su Yu rapidly retreated. Time flowed under his feet as time flew by. His eyes changed slightly. What a strange divine runes. Shan Xiong did not seem to be in this space-time at that moment. Yuan Qi is useless. At this moment, I only have willpower that can be broken. Or your Yuan Qi is several times stronger than mine. Junior brother, the current you can't do it. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1352. 1352 Chapter 315, Crushing Defeat 5. Su Yu instantly understood that Shan Xiong actually had some characteristics of a little furball. It was as if he had transformed into a divine text. Only very powerful Yuan Qi could break through the special domain he was in. As such, Su Yu's physical advantage was instantly gone. The surrounding people were also shocked. What kind of divine text was this? Su Yu's physical body was very powerful, and everyone could see it. In the end, when he punched out, his punch missed. This was the first time they had seen such a situation. Didn't that mean that Shan Xiong was facing off against a fighter? Unless that fighter was much stronger than him, ordinary fighters could only let him kill them. This was too terrifying. Su Yu's strength lay in his physical body. If this continued, how would he deal with it? Interesting. Su Yu laughed softly. This was interesting. Shan Xiong was able to sweep across more than 10 manners of many divine literature department experts. He indeed had some real ability. Competing in divine literature. Su Yu did not waste any words. A blade appeared in his hand. Divine literature instantly fused into it. 18 divine literature fused and transformed into a 18 basis point divine literature battle technique blade. The 5 elements characteristics erupted. Fire and water surged into the sky. The two of them seemed to step into a special domain in the next moment, and they instantly clashed together. Rumble. The aftershocks shook, and the lake water boiled. The surrounding students all retreated. Some of them were not strong enough, and were directly overturned by the airwaves. The experts did not make a move either. There was no fatal danger, and there was no need for them to make a move either. They wanted to let these students know just how big the gap between them was. On the stage, 2 shadows continuously crossed each other. Blade lights and sword shadows clashed. It was usually silent and soundless, but it was exceptionally savage. In the air, Su Yu wrapped himself in a shadow barrier. He held a long blade in his hand and continuously crossed it with Shan Xiong's long sword. Willpower cut and divine runes clashed. Vaguely, Shan Xiong's willpower was even stronger than his. It was likely that he had reached the 3rd rank of normal willpower. His divine inscriptions were also extremely special. There were many characteristics. Su Yu was unable to determine whether this was a single divine inscription or multiple divine inscriptions. While they were exchanging blows, Su Yu's long saber suddenly trembled. The power of the vibration was transmitted over. At this moment, his sea of consciousness was slightly shaken. Su Yu let out a low snort and instantly disappeared into the void. The wind had arrived. A strong wind blew past, carrying with it an incomparably powerful killing power. A poochie sound rang out. Shan Xiong's figure also flashed and disappeared. There were some bloody marks on his body. He was a little surprised. Martial technique? It did not seem like a talent technique. Su Yu did not seem to have consumed any blood essence. Then how did he transform into wind? A special martial technique? Just as he was speaking, a hammer appeared in Su Yu's hand. Su Yu appeared once again and struck out with his hammer. A loud bang sounded. The long sword in Shan Xiong's hand also trembled violently. His willpower was a little absent-minded, but he was instantly jolted awake. The vibration power erupted and forcefully blocked the vibration of the god-expanding hammer. The two of them exchanged blows. Divine runes and the aftermath of willpower spread out, continuously stacking up the tremors. The surrounding void gradually began to fluctuate. At this moment, Niu Bendao and the others frowned slightly. In the next moment, Niu Bendao made his move, and a light screen surrounded the surrounding corridors. These two people continuously stacking up the tremors. If this continued, the surrounding students would suffer. The students didn't understand at first, but they could only watch helplessly as the arena beneath their feet was instantly shattered by the tremors. Without a sound, the enormous arena directly disappeared from the surface of the lake. Su Yu held his hammer and continuously bombarded. As for Shan Xiong, he also held his sword and continuously defended. Both sides' divine runes were trembling, and their seas of consciousness churned. Willpower burst forth one after another. The arena had already disappeared. In the next moment, in the lake, a large turtle shell suddenly split open and escaped through the air. A big turtle at the Ling Yun realm. That was not all. In the blink of an eye, another huge water monster broke through the surface of the water like an octopus and quickly escaped into the distance. At this moment, those tentacles were stained with blood. The surrounding students and teachers were all dumbfounded by what they saw. They really didn't know that there was a great demon underwater. It wasn't just the great demon. Looking at the aura, they were all Ling Yun. In the end, they were shaken by the two of them and had no choice but to flee, escaping from their own nest. Waves after waves of willpower rippled out. Rumble. A loud sound rang out as Su Yu's shadow barrier shattered. His physical body appeared before everyone's eyes. Some cracks appeared on his body, and his white robe was stained with blood. As for Shan Xiong, he also fell from that special state. The clothes on his upper body were directly shattered, revealing his cracked body. A loud bang rang out. Su Yu fell back, and Shan Xiong flew out and crashed into the water. His blood instantly dyed the surface of the lake red. Brother Shan Xiong. Around them, Shang Tianjiao cried out in surprise. The speed of the battle between the two was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, Shan Xiong fell into the water, and his blood dyed the surface of the lake red. As for Su Yu, it seemed that only a small part of his body was cracked, and it was not a big deal. Shan Xiong was defeated. Shang Tianjiao could not believe it. Impossible. Just as she cried out in surprise, a sword light shot out from the water and headed straight for Su Yu. Su Yu snorted coldly. At this moment, he no longer held back. The hammer became incomparably huge. With full strength, with a rumble, the hammer smashed into the water. Bang! The water splashed in all directions like the explosion of blades and swords. It hit Niu Baidao's defensive barrier, causing a metallic collision sound to be heard. Under the water, there was no sound or sound. There was only the flashing of sword rays, which were incomparably powerful. One sword ray after another was unbroken. As for Su Yu, he hammered again and again, causing the entire lake to tremble. A moment later, a human figure flashed and appeared from the lake. Shan Xiong's upper body was naked. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyes were ice cold. He ignored everything and stabbed his sword towards Su Yu's head. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1353. 1353 Chapter 315, Crushing Defeat 6. Get lost. Su Yu let out a low growl as his yuan aperture exploded. His golden body flickered as he unleashed all of his willpower. Thunder and lightning rose in all directions as flames overflowed into the sky, enveloping the two of them within. Loud rumbling sounds rang out continuously. In less than 3 seconds, the two of them separated once again. Shan Xiong's long sword was broken and his hand was covered in blood. However, he had once again disappeared before everyone's eyes. In the air, Su Yu held the giant hammer in his hand and said coldly, "Petty tricks. I thought you were very strong. It seems like you're not as strong as I thought. You just have a few more tricks up your sleeve." Some of the surrounding Ling Yun were speechless. This wasn't strong enough. If it were them, they would have probably been killed before they even reached the 7th level of Ling Yun. Just now, one of Ling Yun had sneakily extended his hand out of Niu Bandao's protective shield. In the end, the bones in his hand were shattered by the two of them in an instant. Were these two really flying in the air? It was just the aftershock. In the blink of an eye, the bones of a Ling Yun's 3rd level hand were shattered. Shan Xiong did not reply. At this moment, Su Yu stomped his foot down. The void trembled and Shan Xiong's figure appeared once again. Shan Xiong retreated quickly and his physical body appeared. He looked at Su Yu with a complicated gaze. What sharp battle instincts! His various methods were all restrained when facing Su Yu. That was because Su Yu had even more techniques. His shockwave, his willpower barrier, and his shadow escape were all useless against Su Yu. On the other hand, he had been severely injured by Su Yu. At this moment, the mountain and sea sun and moon experts could also sense it. They had a feeling that it was both a good thing and a bad thing that these chosen were born in the same era. Both of them had the power to kill Ling Yun, but in the end, they met. Shan Xiong was clearly at a disadvantage, and couldn't compare to Su Yu. His fleshly body couldn't compare to Su Yu's, and his divine sense couldn't compare to Su Yu's. Just as these people were thinking about this, Shan Xiong let out a low growl. In the next moment, he suddenly transformed into a beam of light that shot through the air. With a poochie sound, a bloody scar appeared on Su Yu's neck. Blood sprayed out. Su Yu also struck out with his hammer, causing a figure in the air to freeze. Su Yu then struck out with his fist, and with a bang, flesh and blood exploded. In the blink of an eye, Shan Xiong escaped. At this moment, his back was a bloody mess. Looking at Su Yu, the next moment, everyone felt their teeth ache. The sword mark on Su Yu's neck was still bleeding just a moment ago. However, in the blink of an eye, Su Yu activated some of his acupuncture points and instantly recovered his injuries. Flesh and blood regeneration. Not only the sword mark on his neck, but all the wounds on his body had disappeared at this moment. Not only that, even the blood stains on his white robe had disappeared in an instant. Is that all you've got? Su Yu was calm. That sword attack was too fast. An ordinary Ling Yun would probably have his head taken off with one strike, but that wasn't enough. Then it's my turn. At this moment, the giant hammer in his hand disappeared and instantly turned into a light screen. The 18 divine runes disappeared. In the blink of an eye, the area where the two of them were at had turned into a small world. Shadow barrier. Outsiders could not see through it. They could only hear a few muffled groans that seemed to belong to Shan Xiong. In the shadow barrier, the acupuncture points in Su Yu's legs exploded as time circulated. The slow-paced divine runes characteristics slowed down, the tribulation divine runes deterrence, the blood illusions interference. In terms of characteristics, was Shan Xiong more skilled than him? In terms of martial techniques, was Shan Xiong more skilled than him? Since Shan Xiong did not have more than him, what was there to compete with him? In the barrier, Yuan Qi was sealed, and willpower was sealed. Su Yu raised his legs, and in the blink of an eye, Shan Xiong's vision turned white. At the next moment, Su Yu threw a punch, causing a portion of his body to explode once again. Su Yu was unreasonable and did not spare him. His Yuan Qi was extremely dense, and his willpower was also extremely powerful. Shan Xiong kept on retaliating, but he was suppressed by Su Yu. Boom! 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 After a long while, Shan Xiong let out a furious roar as his willpower exploded. With a boom, the barrier exploded. Shan Xiong's face was pale as blood dripped from his mouth and his wounds. Su Yu was still indifferent. At this moment, everyone could see the difference. Shan Xiong was inferior to Su Yu. He was completely suppressed. Su Yu smiled. Senior brother Shan, what other unique skills do you have? Use them all. Otherwise, there won't be a chance. Dan Xiong's face was as white as paper as he looked at Su Yu. At the next moment, his blood essence suddenly surged. Junior brother. On the other side, Jiang Tao roared. This was the method of burning one's blood essence. As such, even if his strength surged, his physical body would suffer a great loss. In fact, his physical body would even drop in realm. Dan Xiong was going all out. Dan Xiong's blood essence burst out, becoming stronger and stronger. At the next moment, he suddenly burst out and charged towards Su Yu. At this moment, his explosive strength faintly surpassed Su Yu's. Burst out his essence blood. Su Yu's gaze changed as many thoughts flashed in his heart. In the next moment, under everyone's shocked gazes, Su Yu could clearly fight, but he did not. At this moment, Su Yu's 360 apertures suddenly split apart. At the instant they split apart, 144 of them, the heaven-cleaving blades, instantly exploded, bursting out with an incomparably powerful might. In the blink of an eye, Su Yu self-detonated 144 of his apertures. Under Dan Xiong's somewhat shocked and disbelieving gaze, a shocking blade light flashed and disappeared. Puchi. Dan Xiong's figure froze, and he didn't move again. Behind him, Niu Baidao's protective barrier instantly shattered, and a blade aura instantly shattered a small building several thousand meters away. Blood trickled from the corner of Su Yu's mouth. He did not look at Dan Xiong anymore. He silently closed his eyes and experienced the feeling of the 144 acupoints that had suddenly exploded. Yang aperture. He had found it. As for the self-destruction of the 144 acupoints, it was not a big deal. It would only take him 1 or 2 months to recover. He did not lack blood essence, nor did he lack heaven yuan qi. Outsiders might think that it was a serious injury, but to him, it was just a small injury. He could not be bothered to continue fighting with Dan Xiong. If this fellow was not resolved in one go, the problem would not be small. Su Yu silently pondered for a moment before a faint smile appeared on his face. He opened his eyes, but Dan Xiong still did not move in front of him. He looked at Su Yu in disbelief. The next moment, with a bang, his body completely exploded. A divine text appeared. And at that moment, Jiang Tao instantly made a move. He grabbed the divine text and pulled it back. He looked at Su Yu with a complicated expression. He had lost. He had lost miserably. His body had been shattered, and his sea of will had most likely been shattered. As for Su Yu, the price he had to pay was that his 144 yuan aperture had been shattered. As for Su Yu, even if he didn't pay such a price, everyone could tell that he was definitely going to win. As for why he had chosen to shatter his yuan aperture, they couldn't understand. In the crowd, Boss Bai seemed to have gained some enlightenment. He looked at Su Yu with surprise and shock. This fellow was really vicious. What had he discovered that he could use Shan Xiong as a target? Su Yu smiled and didn't mind. He said indifferently, "Senior brother Jiang, his divine prose is mine." Jiang Tao gritted his teeth and said in a low voice, "We'll give you whatever treasure you want." His body exploded, and if the divine prose is given to you, he'll die. The divine prose is mine. Su Yu was still calm. Since the bet had been made, the divine prose was mine. As for whether he died or not, what did it have to do with me? At this moment, everyone was silent. Shan Xiong had suffered a crushing defeat. He had been utterly defeated. The divine runes were Su Yu's. Given the divine runes, Shan Xiong would definitely die. He wouldn't even have a chance to recover. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1354. 1354 Chapter 316 Words of Execution, 1. Silence. The prodigies who had swept through all the major manors were actually defeated by Su Yu just like that. At this moment, there was some disbelief and some disappointment. Shan Xiong had lost. Then was there really such a thing as being invincible in the same level? Could anyone defeat Su Yu? His physical body had exploded, and his sea of will was broken. Would Shan Xiong die just like that? On the lake, Su Yu said again, "The divine prose is mine." Jiang Tao gritted his teeth, and at this moment, someone shouted in grief and indignation, "Su Yu, don't go too far. Do you really have to kill him?" In the next moment, a figure rushed out. Shang Tianjiao stood in front of Su Yu and said mournfully, he lost, he lost. You're stronger than him, and you're number one in the sky. Aren't you satisfied? Do you really have to kill him? She was in a daze and could not believe it. Until now, she still could not react. But she knew that Shan Xiong had lost. She had always thought that Shan Xiong might lose, but in the sky, Shan Xiong could not lose. No one could defeat Shan Xiong. But today, Shan Xiong was completely suppressed by Su Yu. From the beginning to the end, Su Yu self-detonated his 144 yuan aperture. Otherwise, Shan Xiong had never seriously injured Su Yu up until now. Suppression. All-round suppression. Su Yu was indifferent. He looked at her and calmly said, victory and defeat are determined, life and death are determined. If I lose, will you take away my divine prose? Of course, I will give it. Shang Tianjiao was anxious and restless. She was a little angry and a little sad. She gritted her teeth and said, what do you want? I'll give it to you. Do you want the divine prose? My Shang clan can give it to you, even the sun and moon divine prose. I only want his. Su Yu pointed in that direction. He only wanted Shan Xiong's. He could sense that Shan Xiong's divine prose was somewhat special. As for the sun-moon divine prose, he had it. Su Yu. Shang Tianjiao said angrily, are you really not considering the consequences? Consequences? Su Yu smiled faintly and said, what consequences? Tell me about them. Would the great Shang king come to find trouble with me for a dead person, for a descendant of yours? What a ridiculous statement. Are you threatening me? Do you think I'm your subordinate or your subordinate? Can you threaten me? Su Yu sneered. So what if I'm an invincible descendant? He had seen so many invincible descendants. Shang Tianjiao, get out of the way. You're blocking me. If I think you're provoking me and challenging me, I'll kill you. Su Yu stared at her with a cold gaze that made Shang Tianjiao shiver. Your Highness. At this moment, several experts from the Dashang mansion flew out one after another. All of them were extremely vigilant. Su Yu glanced at these armored soldiers and smiled. One must admit defeat. Shan Xiong has swept through more than 10 manors. No one is unwilling to admit defeat, right? Why, is it different when it comes to him? Shang Tianjiao gritted her teeth and said, no, you can't kill him. He's different. He's the hope of the human race. Tisk. At this moment, in the corridor, Wulan snorted with disdain and said, you speak as if without Shan Xiong, the human realm would be destroyed. If he's the hope of the human race, then I'm still the ancestor of the human race. Shang Tianjiao didn't have time to bother with her, and Su Yu didn't bother with her either. He flew straight towards Jiang Tao. Shang Tianjiao was furious and shouted, stop him. The soldiers were all at the Shanhai realm, and they were a little troubled and nervous. Stop Su Yu. Hurry up. Shang Tianjiao shouted, and she turned around to fly towards Jiang Tao, shouting, I'll bring brother Dan Xiong back to the great Shang manor. She wanted to snatch him away. If not, she was worried that the great Zhou manor would hand Dan Xiong over to save face. As for the front, Su Yu did not care and flew straight towards them. The soldiers hesitated, and they gritted their teeth, wanting to stop Su Yu. At this moment, Niu Bendao chuckled and said, let's have a good talk. If the people of the great Shang mansion use force on our pavilion elders, that would be going too far. Think about the consequences. He drank his tea slowly, not in the least bit anxious. Su Yu had won. What was there to be anxious about? As for those armored soldiers, why don't you try using force? Did they really think that the great Ming mansion was idle? Su Yu also had a smile on his face. He didn't care about the mountains and seas and quickly flew over to Jiang Tao's side. Stop him, quick, are you going to disobey the order? The armored soldiers looked like they were struggling. One of them said in a low voice, "Governor Nyo, we don't have any ill intentions. Elder Su, please show mercy first. If there's anything, we can discuss it properly. Don't talk about it, I only want his divine script." Su Yu directly charged at them, and they quickly retreated. The leader of the Shanhai realm felt a chill in his heart. They couldn't touch Su Yu. If they touched Su Yu, Nyo Bendao would most likely kill them. They weren't afraid, but His Highness was still here. "Elder Su, there are many divine runes." They retreated step by step. At this moment, Shang Tianjiao had already flown to Jiang Tao's side. She gritted her teeth and said, "Elder Jiang, leave Brother Dan Xiong to me. I'll take him away." She wanted to leave and return to the great Shang mansion as soon as possible. If she wanted to leave, she would have to use her life to force them. The great Ming mansion might not stop her. She was the great-granddaughter of the great Shang king, an unrivaled direct descendant. As for the others, even Jiang Tao would find it difficult to take Dan Xiong away. Jiang Tao's eyes flickered, but he did not say a word. He quickly passed a golden ball to her. This was a protective measure he had used to protect Dan Xiong's sea of consciousness. At this moment, it was indeed very difficult for him to protect Shan Xiong. Shang Tianjiao took the ball, gritted her teeth, and didn't say anything. She quickly flew out of the academy, turned around, and shouted, "Whoever stops me, I'll self-detonate for him to see." "Su Yu, we're willing to pay the price." As soon as she finished speaking, 3 mountain and sea realm demons appeared in front of them, blocking their way. Behind them, Su Yu forced the mountains and seas to retreat, but no one dared to stop Su Yu. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1355. 1355 Chapter 316 Words of Execution, 2. Below, another expert sighed, "Su Yu, if you have to spare someone, spare them. The great Zhou and great Shang will pay the price. Shan Xiong is a rare peerless genius of the human race." Su Yu did not mind, he chuckled, "Sure, I can spare his life and let him kneel down and kowtow to apologize in all the academies that have fought against the multidivine literature department. I will naturally spare him. A genius will naturally receive the treatment of a genius. I won't kill him." The old man who spoke instantly shut his mouth. This was impossible. Su Yu laughed disdainfully. "Since we've fought all the way here and made the polytheistic culture department unable to raise their head, forcing the polytheistic culture department to abolish the academy and ban the academic department, I think kowtowing to apologize isn't considered too much, right?" Jiang Tao's gaze was cold and stern as he said in a low voice, "It's fine to apologize, but kowtowing to apologize, those people. Are they not worthy?" Su Yu said indifferently, "He lost to me, so it's only natural for me to kill him. Moreover, what I want is only the divine text. I didn't say that I would kill him. Whether he can survive or not depends on his luck. I don't want double standards. If he can win, can't he lose?" Su Yu smiled. In front of him, Shang Tianjiao ignored the 3 great demons and was about to continue fleeing when the giant mountain curled its lips and slapped him. A huge boom rang out. The next moment, Shang Tianjiao's body exploded with a powerful willpower. Above Shang Tianjiao's head, an illusory figure appeared. The illusory figure glanced at the 3 great demons, and very quickly. He sighed lightly. "Su Yu, for my sake, can we both take a step back? The chosen love a single hero, and the 2 love each other. I'm sorry, I don't know you." Su Yu had already flown over, and the mountain and sea realm soldiers felt extremely guilty. They all lowered their heads and bowed, blocking Shang Tianjiao's way as they greeted her. "Greetings, Manor Head." Shang Tianjiao also hurriedly said, "Grandfather, Brother Shan Xiong's injuries are very serious. The illusory figure above looked somewhat helpless as he glanced at Jiang Tao in the distance. This was a matter of the Great Zhou Manor. But now, the experts of the Great Zhou Manor hadn't appeared. His granddaughter had taken Shan Xiong away rashly. This was a big problem. Su Yu, 100 drops of Mountain Sea Realm Blood Essence. I'm not a beggar. Su Yu knew the other party's identity and wasn't surprised. He said, 100 drops of Mountain Sea Blood Essence. Su Yu smiled, I don't lack this small amount of money. I have money. I have a lot of God and Devil Essence blood. The primordial God and Devil Essence blood is also trash. The Great Xia Manor also sent over a heavenly celestial race corpse at the 8th level of the Sun and Moon. Even if it's intact, I'm useless. The Great Ming Manor also has a 5th level Sun and Moon blood fire demon corpse. I can use it at any time. Manor Lord Shang, do you think I look like a beggar? This matter has nothing to do with the Daming Manor. I hope Manor Head Shang will not interfere. The shadow of the Manor Head of the Daming Manor froze for a moment, feeling helpless in his heart. Yes, so you really did not lack money. A few cultivation techniques had allowed him to reap countless benefits. The Daming Manor placed even more importance on this matter. What did he lack? He did not lack anything. Having easily defeated Shan Xiong today, Zhu Tiandao would definitely place even more importance on this matter. He had a headache. Shan Xiong, who had the divine runes, was still worth investing in. Shan Xiong, who had lost the divine runes, had become trash even if he didn't die. Was such trash worth investing in? At this moment, there was still a chance. Just as he was about to say something, below, Niu Baidao sighed, I say, aren't you guys going overboard? Let's just have a proper discussion. What are all of you doing? Everyone, come down and sit down and talk. Manor Head Shang, this is our academy's territory. Rashly possessing willpower isn't good, right? The illusory figure said softly, I'm sorry to be so presumptuous. This willpower is only used for the protection of chosen ones and has no other intentions. Manor Head Niu, you're right. There are some things that we can sit down and talk about. Su Yu, state your conditions. The Great Shang Manor can't do it. As for the Great Zhou Manor, even if you take Shan Xiong's divine prose, your divine prose is still incomparably mystical. Why do you need others' divine prose to learn from? Why don't you exchange for something you need? Your origin aperture self-destructed, and your injuries aren't light either. Why don't you recuperate first? After he said that, someone from the Chiu Suo Academy also said, Manor Head Niu and Su Yu are both humans. Rather than killing Shan Xiong, why don't we have a chat? There's no need to do this. That's right. Even if Su Yu loses, we will still persuade the Great Zhou Manor like this. We aren't protecting anyone. We simply don't want a human genius to lose his life while sparring. People began to persuade him one after another. Even now, they were still in a daze. Shan Xiong had lost too miserably. His physical body had directly exploded. His sea of consciousness had also been heavily damaged by Su Yu. Now, he was relying on the divine text to maintain it. Once the divine text was stripped away, Shan Xiong was almost certain to die. His physical body was still saying that Shan Xiong's strength was in fact the divine text path. At the very most, he could just spend some money to reforge his physical body and then bitterly cultivate his physical body. He would have to start all over again. In order to forge his physical body, Shan Xiong had also paid a huge price. Now, all of them were gone. Su Yu ignored these people, he said with a faint smile, if I win, then how I do it is my business. Seniors, your thoughts do not represent my thoughts. That day, Shan Xiong swept through all the major manors and forced all the major manors to close down the multi-god literature department. Why didn't anyone make a sound? Su Yu calmly said, He thought that he was invincible and came to challenge me. Since he lost, I want what belongs to me. Is there a problem? I'm not like him. If I wanted to, I could also sweep through all the major manors single god literature department of the same level. Would the single god literature department close down? I would only do such a thing if I had nothing better to do. Since he did it, shouldn't he bear the consequences? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1356. 1356 Chapter 316, Words of Execution, 3. Silence. There was no way to refute. Shan Xiong's objective in challenging the various divine arts experts was indeed not simple. There was no doubt about it. Unfortunately, he had really bumped into an iron plate this time. Niu Bendao smiled and said, "Su Yu, how can you speak like that? Be more polite. Also, Manor Head Shang, this great-granddaughter of yours. She's a little girl. It's understandable that she lost her mind because of love, but, this snatching Su Yu's spoils of war is a major taboo. Take it over first. Otherwise, if this were to be placed in a heavenly battlefield, you snatching other people's spoils of war would be a major crime. You're still young, so this is the first time you can forget about this." Shang Tianjiao bit her lip as she looked at the figure that was gradually appearing beside her. That was her grandfather. At this moment, she could only hope that her grandfather would be able to help her and help Shan Xiong escape this calamity. Manor Head Shang was silent for a moment before saying, "Tianjiao, first hand Shan Xiong's divine inscriptions over to Su Yu." "I won't." Shang Tianjiao was in despair. Her grandfather actually wanted her to hand them over. Manor Head Shang said calmly, "Hand it over first. You can hand it over to Manor Head Niu as well." Manor Head Niu, right? Niu Bendao would not kill Shan Xiong rashly. Killing Shan Xiong would not bring much benefit. He would also offend the Great Zhou and Great Shang manors. As for handing it over to Su Yu, young people were easily impulsive and could be killed by Su Yu in the next moment. At this moment, the golden ball in Shang Tianjiao's hand gradually solidified. A moment later, Shan Xiong's weak voice was heard, "Tianjiao, let Su Yu take away my divine inscriptions." "I won't." Shang Tianjiao's eyes turned red, "You're not allowed to die." After saying that, she looked at Su Yu and said sorrowfully, "Do you have to kill him? He didn't kill any of your people, and his grandfather was killed by your teacher. He didn't want to kill you either. Su Yu, are you that cold-blooded?" Su Yu smiled, "So, it's my fault. His grandfather has been stirring up trouble again and again, surrounding and killing my teacher, and my martial uncle in the Great Xia Manor. Isn't it normal for him to be killed? He's already an adult, shouldn't he bear all of this himself? As for him, he lost to me. If he can kill me, I naturally won't have any objections, but he can't. Don't tell me. He wants me to die." Su Yu chuckled, "Why do some people always feel that they are the innocent ones, the ones who are wronged, and the ones who deserve sympathy? Shan Xiong. Can you not challenge me? Did I force him to come?" Shang Tian was speechless. Su Yu said indifferently, "If you were not an invincible descendant, you would have snatched my spoils of war from me. You would already be dead. Don't rely on your family background to think that you can do whatever you want. Mansion Master Shang is here right now. If you don't hand over Shan Xiong, I will kill you. Will the Great Shang Mansion come and kill me? It clearly has nothing to do with the Great Shang Mansion. Do you have to drag the Great Shang Mansion into this? The last time a pavilion elder of the Dashang Manor attacked me, I couldn't even be bothered to say anything. The Dashang Manor, do you really want to make things difficult for me?" Su Yu did not look at Shang Tianjiao, but instead looked at the illusory figure. The manor head of the Dashang Manor was also silent for a moment. He then said, "Hand Shan Xiong over to Manor Head Niu." "Su Yu, don't kill him just because of a moment of anger. In fact, it doesn't mean much to you. What you want, the Great Zhou Manor and the Dashang Manor will provide it to you. Try your best to satisfy your requirements. As for Su Yu really wanting to kill Shang Tianjiao, there was a high probability that he wouldn't, but if he really killed her, would he really be able to come and kill Su Yu? Stop joking around. The Invincible clan was strong, but it wasn't like Su Yu didn't have someone backing him up. It clearly had nothing to do with them. Could it be that a battle between the two manors was about to erupt? If Zhou Polong himself didn't show up, why would he get involved? If it weren't for Shan Xiong having some value, he wouldn't have shown up and wouldn't have come out to make peace. At this moment, he could already feel quite a few suns and moons locking onto his willpower incarnation. His willpower wasn't too strong, and it would dissipate very quickly. Making a move was meaningless, and he was even going to fight to the death with the Daming Manor. He didn't have the mood to do so. After saying this, he looked at Jiang Tao and said indifferently, "Jiang Tao, do you think we can talk?" Jiang Tao lowered his head. "We can. As long as Su Yu doesn't go too far, the Great Zhou Manor will do anything for junior brother Shan." Su Yu smiled. "You're putting me on fire, as if it's my fault. Seniors, have I spoken? Have I asked for anything from you? Do I lack resources? I don't lack anything. Right now, I only want Shan Xiong's divine prose. I only need this. Of course, if the two of you can give me a treasure that will allow me to advance to invincibility, I can consider it. Otherwise, I think my sun and moon won't be a problem." Speechless. Everyone was speechless from all directions. These words were actually not a problem. Was there a problem with Su Yu going to the sun and moon? It shouldn't be too difficult. He didn't lack money, resources, or cultivation techniques either. It seemed like it would be very difficult to move him. No one had expected that the final result would be like this. Crushing the situation. This was great. In order to protect Shan Xiong, both the Great Shang and Great Zhou manors were in a difficult position. What did you have to protect them with? Just as this place was caught in a dilemma. At the same time, Great Ming Manor, City Lord Manor. Zhu Tiandao was drinking tea with a middle-aged man. Zhu Tiandao chuckled and said, "This kid is really ruthless. That disciple of yours is really quite powerful. What exactly did he do with the divine text?" "I think it's just a divine text, but it doesn't feel like it's just a divine text. How could a divine text have so many characteristics?" The person sitting in front of him was Zhou Polong. Zhou Polong did not say anything. He drank a cup of tea and slowly said, "Dan Xiong cannot die. Name your price." I wanted him to try Su Yu's methods, but the result was a little out of my expectations. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1357. 1357 Chapter 316, Language of Execution, Monthly Subscription, 4. Even he did not anticipate this scene. He lost extremely quickly and miserably. What does it have to do with me? Zhu Tiandao chuckled and said, "I'm not Su Yu." Zhou Polong said indifferently, "Then if you don't care, I'll forcefully take him away." "Can Su Yu stop me?" Zhu Tiandao laughed dryly and said, "Brother Zhou, that's not suitable. It's a bet. Is face worth money?" Zhou Polong said faintly, "If I forcefully took Shan Xiong away, would you let your father kill his way into the Great Zhou Manor to find me for this matter?" Cough cough, how can that be? That's impossible. My father won't do it either. Zhu Tiandao laughed and said, "But this is against the rules. If you do this and I do this, then everyone will go back on their words in the future. Then, we won't be able to play anymore, right, Brother Zhou?" Zhou Polong said indifferently, that's why I asked you to name your price. I can't name my price. How would I know what Su Yu wants? How about this, I'll be the middleman and you guys talk. I don't think Su Yu has that much killing intent. He's just trying to scare Shan Xiong. We should be able to talk. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, it's just a small matter. He's not some formidable enemy. He's a mortal enemy. If Su Yu is a little stronger, then your disciple is nothing. He won't care too much. Once these words were said, Zhou Pelong's hand that was holding the teacup paused slightly. He smiled and said, Zhu Tiandao, you really dare to say it? No, it's just the truth. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, don't say that. Our Daming Manor is really lively today. That fellow Shang Yunqiao also got a willpower avatar here. I really want to beat up a few invincible descendants one by one. Maybe I can beat up a few more old friends so that we can chat and drink tea. Boring. Zhou Polong couldn't be bothered to reply. After drinking the tea, he stood up and said, Su Yu knows that I'm here. Then I'm not sure. Interesting. Do you want me to come out and talk to him? Zhou Polong smiled and didn't move. In the next moment, the two instantly appeared above Su Yu's head. The others all looked over. Greetings to Manor Head Zhou, greetings to Manor Head Zhu. Some experts all bowed and greeted. Manor Head Zhou was in front. Zhu Tiandao's status was higher, but his strength was greater than Zhou Pelong's. He was close to being an invincible expert. He was about the same as Xiaolongu. Of course, the outside world said that he was slightly weaker than Xiaolongu. As for the specifics, the two of them had never fought before, so it was hard to say who would win. Zhou Polong ignored him, and Zhu Tiandao nodded with a smile. Very soon. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, Old Shang, if you don't come in person, you'll be disrespecting me by creating a willpower avatar. Don't do this next time. Otherwise, next time I'll have my kid come to your house to cause a ruckus, and I'll try to use my willpower as well. Old Shang, don't you agree? The manor head of Great Shang Manor nodded slightly. I'm sorry. I was in a rush, and Tianjiao was spoilt and made a fool of herself. The next time we meet, I'll definitely apologize. Zhu Tiandao laughed heartily. It's fine, it's fine. I was just saying. After all, he's just a child. How could he be so petty with a child over such a small matter? Su Yu, be magnanimous. He's still a pavilion elder after all. Tianjiao, if you call him niece, it's fine. If you're even more shameless, you can call him granddaughter. After all, he's still an honorary pavilion elder. In the end, he has the same seniority as the manor head and manor head. There's no need to be so petty with a child. The surroundings fell silent once more. With the arrival of the two great experts, everyone wanted to hear how to resolve the following matters. Who knew that the moment Zhu Tiandao arrived, he would give the people of the Great Shang Manor a good beating? Zhou Polong ignored him. He extended his hand and beckoned, and the golden ball in Shang Tianjiao's hand fell into his hand. Very quickly, the color of blood appeared in his hand, and gradually, the golden ball began to absorb the blood qi. After a while, Shan Xiong appeared, his face deathly pale. The strength of his physical body had dropped to the point of 1,000 pounds. With his physical body reforged, he did not need to walk away from Yuan. Of course, if he did not cast his physical body after a long time, his 9 orifices would be blocked and he would have to continue to walk away from Yuan. It would waste a lot of time. Shan Xiong appeared and lowered his head. He said in a low voice, Teacher, your disciple has embarrassed you. No worries. Zhou Polong said indifferently, Su Yu is very talented and his strength is also very good. He is stronger than when I was young and Xiaolongu was young. Even if Xiaolongu and I met him during the soaring stage, we would still have a slim chance of survival. It is already good enough that we can keep our lives. As soon as these words were said, the atmosphere instantly boiled. Zhou Pulong. He actually said that when he and Xia Longwu were young, they would also have a slim chance of survival if they met Su Yu, who was at the same level as them. What did this mean? Did this mean that Su Yu's talent and strength were stronger than the two quasi-invincible experts? On the other side, Su Yu frowned slightly and glanced at Zhou Pulong. He did not look old, and was quite young. He was not as dignified as Xia Longwu, and had some scholarly aura. If they met each other on a daily basis, they would probably feel that it was easier to interact with him than Xia Longwu. However, it was this person who had caused the great Xia Mansion's divine literature department to be suppressed for many years. It was the same for the entire human realm. The fight between Shan Duo and the divine literature department being suppressed had something to do with Zhou Pulong. This was because his father had been invincible in the past. In order to save the 5 generations, he had died in battle. Although he hadn't appeared, including Zhou Mingren and the others targeting Hong Tan and the others, it was all related to this person. It was also his intention to take away Lu Wenyan's divine text. At this moment, seeing Su Yu looking at him, Zhou Pulong said calmly, "Su Yu, Shan Xiong lost. His strength is not as good as yours. As for you taking away his divine text, if you are willing to accept your loss, then accept it. If he admits it, then I also admit it. The divine text for the divine text. Lu Wenyan inherited Yi Beishan's divine text in exchange for his divine text. You are not at a loss." Zhou Pulong said calmly, "In the past, my father saved Yi Badian and died. Logically speaking, Yi Beishan's divine prose should not have been inherited by Lu Wenyan. This is the crux of the matter. I have the right to look into Yi Beishan's divine prose and share it. If Lu Wenyan is unable to take it out, then that is his problem." This point was also acknowledged by the great Xia Emperor and the others in the past, including Lu Wenyan himself. Today, with the God text of Shan Xiong, settle this enmity and entanglement. How? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1358. 1358 Chapter 316 Words of Execution, 5. Divine Runes for Divine Runes. Did Zhou Pulong have the right to ask for the 5th generation's divine runes and check them out? Yes. Su Yu did not know the details of this point, but he knew that Lu Wenyan and Hong Tan had actually approved of it. Of course, checking it out was one thing. They did not say that they would definitely give it to him, but some of the information left behind by the 5th generation had been promised to Zhou Pulong. On this point, Su Yu wasn't sure whether it was true or not. However, Zhou Pulong's father had died in order to save someone, so no one said anything and no one refuted. Now that the information was missing, Lu Wenyan couldn't bring out the words of God one. Therefore, he had used this excuse when he was besieged last time. Now that Zhou Pulong had said that he would end this grudge, Su Yu fell into deep thought. Was it worth it? Actually, in his opinion, it was worth it. However, so what if it was ended? Lu Wenyan had been suppressed for a full 50 years. Teacher. At this moment, Dan Xiong was also feeling extremely guilty. This was his teacher using his father's favor in the past to exchange for his life. He did not dare to accept this favor. From now on, Zhou Pulong and the Zhou family would no longer have any reason to say that Zhou Wudi had died in order to save 5 generations. There was no longer a need to say what he had made the polytheistic faction pay. If there were any more conflicts, the multi-divine prose clan would no longer feel that they were in the wrong. Zhou Pulong raised his hand and did not allow him to continue speaking. He looked at Su Yu. He said indifferently, "Isn't this enough? You've agreed. From now on, the battle of numbers will not involve any personal grudges. It's a battle of the great Tao, a battle for survival. It has nothing to do with individuals. Lu Wenyan also doesn't have to bear anything. My father's death and Yi Beishan's death are matters of the previous generation. Nothing else will be involved. Is this enough? He didn't have to bear anything. What did Lu Wenyan have to bear? He had to bear some debts owed to him by his 5 generations. He had to owe him a huge favor, and he had to sacrifice himself to save him. This debt was too huge. Su Yu smiled and nodded, all right. In that case, my teacher and my grand-teacher will no longer owe the Zhou clan anything. If there are any conflicts in the future, we can kill the members of the Zhou clan as well. Principal Zhou, am I right? Zhou Pulong glanced at him and said, sure. How bold. There were too few people who dared to say such words in front of him. Su Yu had said it. He was also venting his anger. Due to the fact that it wasn't convenient for him to make a move on the Zhou clan, Hong Tan had been avoiding them all these years, including Zhou Mingren. Today, Su Yu had said that the members of the Zhou clan could be killed. Zhou Polong didn't refute him. If he had to be killed, he could naturally be killed. This was also the best result Su Yu could obtain. As for resources, treasures, and merit points, he didn't care too much about them. These things could be obtained easily. The great Zhou clan might have them, but the great Ming clan might have them. He could also find Zhu Tiandao to obtain them. On the contrary, this was too difficult. Su Yu was delighted. He believed that Lu Wenyan would definitely be happy when he heard this news, as if he was relieved of a heavy burden. He did not expect Zhou Polong to bring this up on his own. Before this, he had such thoughts. However, he did not think that Zhou Polong would agree, nor did he think that Dan Xiong was worth it for him to do so. This was because the Zhou family stood on the moral high ground in the matter of the 5 generations. And today, all of this would be eliminated. Otherwise, even if Lu Wenyan and Hong Tan had great strength one day, when they faced Zhou Polong and wanted to kill Zhou Polong, killing the son of your master's benefactor would be an act of repaying kindness with enmity. His father died for your master. If you killed him, that would be no good. No matter how heinous his crimes were, you would have to bear some infamy. At this moment, Su Yu thought of many things, and his smile gradually brightened. Since that's the case, then there's nothing to talk about. Senior brother Dan is very strong, his talent is very good, and the divine text is even more mysterious. I wish senior brother Dan a speedy recovery, and I wish senior brother Dan and Princess Shang an early marriage, a young child, and a happy life. His smile was brilliant, as if nothing had happened just now. His congratulatory words caused everyone to fall silent. It was better to not say it. If it were them, they would probably die of anger at this moment. After congratulating him for a while, Su Yu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale as he said, since the matter has been resolved, then I have to go back and recuperate. Senior brother Dan is too strong. He exploded my 144 yuan aperture. I'm afraid that I won't have any hope of recovering for another 10 or 8 years. I won't disturb the seniors anymore. With that, Su Yu flew toward the Primordial Spirit Research Institute. Behind him, Zhou Polong said calmly, you are very talented and have the potential to become invincible in the Tao. If there is a day when the Daming Manor is unable to protect you, you can go to the Great Zhou Manor and try to find me. The entire place fell silent once again. This day had given them too much stimulation. What did Zhou Polong mean? Would he accept Su Yu? Su Yu did not even turn his head and said, thank you, Manor Head Zhou, but I'm doing very well now. Manor Head Zhu is my savior. As for attaining Tao, perhaps we can take a look at it 100 years later. Now, I'd better congratulate Manor Head Zhou in advance. Our human race will soon have another invincible person, the joy of the human realm. After flying a distance away, Su Yu suddenly said, in addition, senior brother Shan concealed his strength, and Su Yu also won unjustly. In order to dispel some people's enmity, he even disguised the divine literature battle technique to this extent, truly formidable. What ability does Su Yu have to actually become senior brother Shan's scapegoat? It's truly an honor. If I really gave it my all, I might not be like senior brother Shan, to be able to suffer such a great loss. Senior brother Shan, ambitious. Shan Xiong was slightly taken aback. In the next moment, everyone turned their gazes to Shan Xiong. Zhu Tiandao was surprised and muttered, "How many divine runes are there?" Divine runes as one. This is an invincible image. However, he cursed in his heart. Holy shit. This kid, Su Yu, was really that ruthless. Did everyone doubt him? Of course they doubted him. Shan Xiong's divine runes were simply too unbelievable. They had many terrifying characteristics. Could it really be divine runes as one? Therefore, even if the Zhou family had to pay the price of not haggling over the matter of 5 generations, they still had to protect Shan Xiong. Shan Xiong had lost to Su Yu in disguise. In order to dispel some people's suspicions and thoughts, he had made the 10,000 clans focus their attention on Su Yu. What a huge trick of the flesh! Amazing! At this moment, someone muttered. Su Yu was also amazing. He had actually seen through it. The key thing was, this fellow had actually said it out loud. Below, someone curled his lips. I see. I was just saying that he lost so quickly. He was defeated by Su Yu in 1, 2, and 3. So, he was hiding his strength and diverting his attention. How shameless. No wonder it was like this. Wulan curled her lips and turned around to leave. Shameless person. Previously, she thought that even if Shan Xiong lost, he still had some bearing. Now that Su Yu said it, she instantly felt that this person was too sinister, and so was the Zhou family. Everything was just to let Shan Xiong escape everyone's sight. Such thoughts did not only arise in the hearts of one person. Shan Xiong, was he really that weak? Alright, he was not weak. However, he had been defeated by Su Yu too easily. Even Su Yu was able to defeat him without suffering serious injuries. In any case, he was also an expert who had swept through more than 10 large manors with many divine literature departments. How could he be so far away from Su Yu? With Zhu Tiandao's agreement, even Zhou Polong raised his eyebrows slightly. He glanced at Su Yu who had left, then looked at Zhu Tiandao and smiled. Daming manner, was really interesting. As for Zhu Tiandao, he didn't care about these things. He sighed, shook his head, and muttered, that bastard Su Yu, I'll find him to settle the score. Don't mind him, he's just spouting nonsense. This time, all the suffering will be in vain. What a pity. It was a ploy to inflict pain. It was completely ineffective. As for whether it was a ploy to inflict pain or not, who cares? Your great Zhou manor wants to put Su Yu on the stage, so of course I'll have to retaliate. It's better for Shan Xiong to take the blame. His ambition is too great, disguising himself as a single divine prose. Now, everyone knows why Shan Xiong is so powerful, right? Why are there so many characteristics of divine prose? Divine runes as one. Who knows how many divine runes as one? This fellow was even closer to being an undefeatable civilized master. Everyone must not misunderstand. They felt that he was useless and that everything was just a fake for them to see. Dan Xiong's mouth opened and closed for a long time, but he was unable to say a word. At this moment, whether he denied it or admitted it, it did not have much effect. The seed of doubt was planted by Su Yu. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1359. 1359 Chapter 317 had blown up. Xiu Monthly 1. Unity of multiple divine runes. Su Yu had run away, but the words he had said were too vicious. The credibility was still very high. Otherwise, there was no way to explain why Shan Xiong's divine runes had so many characteristics. Shadow escape, shuttle, shock, avoiding the Yuan Qi barrier. Just during his battle with Su Yu, Shan Xiong had used 5 or 6 characteristics. Some of them might not be obvious, but there might be some, including the boiling of battle intent. Some of the supporting characteristics might not be revealed. At this moment, the old dragon from the Great Xia Manor also spoke up. He said softly, "Manor head Zhou, can multiple divine runes be combined into one?" Curious. Or, he had confirmed this point. Zhou Pulong glanced at the old dragon and said indifferently, "Do you want to see if it's true or false? Would you believe me if I said it was false?" "You won't believe me." Since that was the case, he couldn't be bothered to say anything. It was meaningless. The more he tried to explain himself, the more guilty he felt. He didn't need to. The old dragon smiled. "There's no need for that. It's just that I didn't expect it." Zhou Polong looked at him, but the old dragon didn't say anything. Zhou Polong, from the name, he didn't sound too friendly to the dragon clan. It was better not to provoke this person. This person might not be weaker than Xiaolongu. Zhou Polong didn't say anything. In the next moment, his figure gradually disappeared, and a lingering voice was heard. "From today onwards, it doesn't matter whether you want to fight or not in the name of the Zhou clan. The grudge between me and Yi Batian and his successor has come to an end." At this moment, Zhou Polong seemed to have sublimated. Zhu Tiandao watched him leave and frowned slightly. This guy, was he here to settle this grudge? Was he here to prove his Dao? He was really scheming. The only thing that was out of his expectations was Su Yu's audacity. Before he left, he had tricked him. Su Yu was really audacious. Let alone framing him, even if it was true, if he said it in public. He had to be careful that Zhou Polong would be angered to the point of killing him. This brat is getting more and more audacious. Zhu Tiandao sighed in his heart as he looked once again in the direction that Zhou Polong had left. At the same time, the illusory image of the manor head of Grand Shang was also deep in thought as he looked at Zhu Tiandao. Finally, he looked at Shan Xiong and smiled, his willpower instantly dissipated. F***ck. All of them ran quite quickly. Zhu Tiandao cursed in his heart. He looked around and saw that everyone was still in a daze, so he did not stand on ceremony. He directly said, "You all heard it?" The battle between Shan Duo would be a matter between the single divine literature faculty and the multiple divine literature faculty in the future. It would have nothing to do with that fellow Zhou Polong. Some fellows should stop using things like Yi Ba's divine literature and information to cause trouble. If they continue to find trouble, they would be courting death. Don't say that I didn't warn you guys when you die. After saying this, he added, also, Dan Xiong, that kid, is really not bad. He glanced at Dan Xiong and said with a smile, I have a granddaughter, Dan Xiong. Do you intend to stay in Daming Manor? Silence. Shang Tianjiao's expression changed again and again, but Zhu Tiandao said with a smile, you have an invincible appearance. I have high hopes for you. You can't stay in the Great Zhou Manor anymore. Come to my Daming Manor. I will invite my father to protect you. My Daming Manor will do as well. Shang Tianjiao could not help but shout. Zhu Tiandao sighed, your grandfather is a crafty character, he has long seen through it. No wonder he acted early, and even offended my Daming Manor for this. He is indeed a wily old fox, your grandfather, has a better eye than me. Shang Tianjiao did not know how to reply for a moment, could these words be answered? Zhu Tiandao continued, forget it. What a pity. The gates of Daming Manor will open at any time for you. Shan Xiong, if you attain Dao one day, my father will definitely protect you and form a good relationship with you. As for the battle between you and Su Yu, it will be a battle between gentlemen. Shan Xiong was silent, not saying a word. Below, Jiang Tao's expression changed again and again. He did not feel any kind intentions, only a bone-chilling malice. Zhou Polong said that Su Yu was invincible, stronger than Xiao Longwu and himself. On the other hand, Zhu Tiandao was even more explicit, directly confirming Shan Xiong's identity as a multi-divine one. At this moment, Jiang Tao could not care less and hurriedly said, "Thank you for thinking highly of him, Manor-head Zhu. My junior brother is not good with words. In addition, he is a pure single divine one civilized master with many characteristics. It is only the divine one that is special." "Is that so?" Zhu Tiandao smiled, understood. "Oh right, little Jiang, next time your junior brother sparred with someone, don't interfere recklessly. Look at the mess today, it almost dragged the great merchant house into it. How bad is that?" Once these words were said, Jiang Tao was slightly startled. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, "It's fine. Your brother Zhou's disciple. You love junior brother dearly and don't want Su Yu to get his divine text. I can understand. After all, Su Yu is an expert in this area, but, there really are some bad rules." Jiang Tao hurriedly said, "Thank you for your understanding, Manor-head Zhu." Fortunately, he didn't pursue this matter. Just as he was thinking, Niu Bendao suddenly cursed, F***ck, why are you stepping on me? Before Jiang Tao could react, a shrill cry suddenly came from beside him. In the next moment, a huge golden ROC revealed its true form. With a bang, one of its wings was directly torn off. Niu Bidao directly tore off the other party's wings. He cursed, "Fine, just step on me. Am I easy to bully? F***ck, I'm already so old, and you're stepping on me? You're a hurdler and a transport. If you step on me, can you compensate for the loss?" In the air, Zhu Tiandao berated, "Old Niu, what are you doing? You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories." Chapter 1360. 1360 Chapter 317 had blown up. Chill Monthly 2. Niu Bendao said angrily, "This fellow stepped on me properly, don't you know how heavy you are?" The golden-winged Great Peng was still screaming miserably at this moment. The strength of a 5th-level Sun-Moon realm. However, Niu Bendao had torn off his wings in an instant, causing blood to flow profusely. However, the blood disappeared in an instant and was intercepted by Niu Bendao. At the same time, his wings were also stored in his storage ring. Jiang Tao's face turned pale and his heart turned cold. Zhu Tiandao, on the other hand, frowned and scolded, "Scram, old Niu, what are you messing around for? I've already said that I don't want to pursue the matter anymore. Yet, you've suddenly made a move on a beast that is used to transport people. Are you not giving me face? Even if you beat up a dog, you still have to look at its owner. How am I going to explain myself in front of Brother Zhou? I'll deduct 100 years of your salary. In the next 100 years, don't even think about taking a single cent. Don't, Manor-head, I was wrong. Go, now, immediately, go into seclusion and reflect on yourself." Niu Bidao had a helpless look on his face as he muttered, "I'm the same age as your father, yet you're treating me like this. Forget it. 100 years is 100 years. How am I going to live for the next 100 years? With some resentment and some helplessness, Niu Bidao no longer cared about anything else. He shook his head and left bitterly with some resentment. Silence. Incomparable silence. What was this? Killing the chicken to warn the monkeys? Jiang Tao was Zhou Pelong's eldest disciple, so Zhu Tiandao did not say anything. However, a beast who could travel on foot, even if it was at the 5th level of the Sun-Moon realm, so what? He could tear you up if he wanted to. Did Jiang Tao dare to fart? At this moment, Zhu Tiandao seemed to be very angry. He cursed and scolded Niu Baidao away. He sighed and said, "Little Jiang, help me explain to old Zhou. This matter has caused old Niu to lose his mind. It's fine if he was stepped on, but he actually made a move. He's already so old and doesn't know his limits at all. Is this golden-winged great peng alright? Can it fly even if it has a broken wing? If it can't, leave it in our daming manor. I'll help it heal." The moment these words were said, the golden-winged great peng returned to its human form in an instant. One of its arms was broken and blood was still flowing out. However, it endured the pain and said with a terrified expression, "There's no need. I'll have to trouble Manor Head Zhu." It had suffered for someone else. It was not stupid. Jiang Tao was not easy to move, so it would not be a problem to move it. If it stayed, it was afraid that it would not be able to leave alive. Jiang Tao's face also turned slightly pale as he said, "Thank you, Manor Head Zhu. There's no need to trouble Manor Head Zhu. It's just a small injury." Elder Jean is old and did not pay attention. He stepped on Manor Head Niu. "I apologize to Manor Head Niu on behalf of Elder Jean." Apologize. He still had to apologize after having one of his wings torn off. Zhou Polong had left. Otherwise, he would still have some confidence. But now, he didn't have any confidence at all. Provoking the manor head of Daming Manor was obviously not a good outcome. He had to end this matter as soon as possible. Zhu Tiandao sighed, "Then forget it. Seriously, I'll get old Niu to give you some compensation later on. I'll get some delicious food and drinks for this golden-winged great rock. I heard that the great rock tribe likes to eat ants. If you want more later on, I'll get someone to send more over." Jiang Tao didn't say anything. Ants? Sky-swallowing ants. Send them where? Send them to the Great Zhou Manor. He was looking for trouble for himself. He didn't say anything, but Zhu Tiandao didn't care either. He smiled and said, "Then this matter ends here. Old Niu, the older he gets, the more narrow-minded he gets. I'll definitely teach him a good lesson later." After saying that, he looked at Shang Tianjiao, he smiled and said, "Eldest granddaughter, don't act recklessly next time. This sparring matter hasn't been decided yet, so how can you interfere? Moreover, snatching the spoils of war, that's a big taboo. The military hated people like this the most. Once they did this in the military and were seen by the experts, the great Qin king wouldn't be able to tolerate it. Even if your grandfather snatched it, he would be slapped to death." Shang Tianjiao was somewhat shocked by the tragic scene just now. She didn't say a word and lowered her head. Dan Xiong also lowered his head and said softly, "Lord Manor Head, all the mistakes are my fault. Please forgive me, Lord Manor Head. It's fine, it's fine. We're family, so I only said a few words." Zhu Tiandao smiled. In the next moment, he looked at the armored soldiers of the great Shang Manor, he shouted, "My eldest granddaughter doesn't understand. She's still young, don't you understand?" No one actually bothered her. No one reminded her. Instead, it only encouraged her arrogance. B*****. If there were people like you in my great Ming Manor, would have long slapped you to death. In the future, when she goes to the heavenly battlefield, if she sees anything good, she can snatch it from outsiders. But if she wants to snatch from her own people, why are you all snatching from her as well? A slave is a slave. There are no rules at all." She snorted. The sound waves shook, and the armor of the armored soldiers was unharmed. However, their internal organs were ruptured, and blood seeped out from the cracks in their armor. The armored soldiers grunted, but no one said anything. No one said that they were unconvinced. They had to submit. Even if Manor Head Shang was here and Zhu Tiandao said this, they still had to listen and submit. Zhu Tiandao punished the few of them, and his smiling face returned to normal. He looked at Shang Tianjiao and Dan Xiong, he sighed emotionally, a match made in heaven and earth. With the support of the great Shang and great Zhou manners, Dan Xiong, you'll be invincible soon. In the future, you'll have to get closer to the great Ming manor, and they'll be a perfect match. I know about your grandfather's matter. Don't be sad. I'm sorry for your loss. Although your grandfather went to seize Yi Beishan's divine prose for you and was killed, this is also fate. Before your grandfather died, you might not have become one with the divine prose. It seems that your grandfather has given you quite a shock. Now, you no longer need Yi Beishan's divine prose. As soon as these words were said, the eyes of the group below suddenly flickered. The brain quickly revolved. Shan Tianhao, in order to single Xiong, just want to seize the 5th-generation divine text. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1361. 1361 Chapter 317 had blown up. Chill Monthly 3. What was so special about the 5th-generation divine prose? Divine prose as one. So, it needed the 5th-generation divine prose as a reference. So, if Lu Wenyan didn't give it to him, Shan Tianhao couldn't wait to stay in the Great Xia Manor every day, wanting to kill Lu Wenyan. With that, some situations were instantly straightened out. And now, Zhou Polong didn't want the 5th-generation divine prose anymore, because Shan Xiong had already achieved divine prose as one. An expert secretly transmitted his voice, oldly, back then when Dan Tianhao went to your academy to challenge, did he achieve the divine runes as one? I'm not sure about that, but I don't think he had that many characteristics back then. That Yuan Qi isolation barrier has never been used before. It was not that he had never used it before, but it was because Dan Xiong's previous opponents did not have the strength and their physical bodies were inferior to his. His physical body was an advantage, so there was no need for him to use it. But now, everyone couldn't help but think about it. They could also hear that Zhu Tiandao was trying his best to guide them. It was too obvious, but it sounded really logical. How could there be so many unique divine runes? Nonsense. Divine runes as one. Did the 5th generation do it? Was the 5th generation's divine runes also like this? Multiple divine runes, and they didn't even need to form a battle technique. Why did they just focus on one divine rune? What was this? So he didn't need the divine runes of the 5th generation as a reference anymore. One thought after another arose in everyone's mind. Zhu Tiandao smiled. Below, Jiang Tao wanted to speak a few times, but in the end, he had no choice but to give up. He couldn't speak. He was afraid that if he spoke, Zhu Tiandao would trap him and kill him. This fellow had a very dark heart. There weren't many people who could become the head of a prefecture who weren't ruthless. Xia Longwu might not be ruthless, but his hands were definitely ruthless. Alright, disperse, disperse. The two young men exchanged blows. Let's not talk about anything else. It's finally a happy ending. Shan Xiong, Daming Mansion still has some Earth origin fruits. Bring them with you when you return. Once you open the body aperture, you'll need these things. Cultivate well. Oh right, Daming Mansion still has the opportunity to exchange for the sacred land casting quota. If you need it, I'll give it to you. Don't take it to heart. I'll take it as Suyu apologizing to you. He didn't show any mercy. The strong students from all directions were stunned for a moment. Holy shit. You're really going to give away a spot in the Holy Land? At this moment, they were a little confused. Did Zhu Tiandao really think highly of Shan Xiong, or did he do it on purpose? But, to frame Shan Xiong, was there a need to throw away a spot in the Holy Land? In the next 50 years, there would be no chance for anyone to enter. There would also be no chance to obtain the heaven origin fruit. 2 heaven origin fruits in 9 years, an amount of 11 heaven origin fruits. Was he giving them away for nothing? At this moment, even Dan Xiong was stunned. The earth origin fruit was an opportunity for the Holy Land to cast its body. The Great Zhou Manor had no chance. The Daming Manor wanted to give him a chance. Manor head Zhu, you flatter me. Dan Xiong's injuries were not light, and he was still a little muddle-headed at this moment. He only knew that Zhu Tiandao might not have good intentions, but his head was in great pain, and he did not have the time to think too much. He could only say, Manor head, you're too kind. There's no need to be like this. Thank you for your kind words, Manor head. Zhu Tiandao smiled and said, it's nothing. If you want, you can come and find me anytime. Then, I'll take my leave first. After saying this, he instantly disappeared from where he was. At this moment, the surroundings were very quiet. The experts did not make a sound. The students whispered to each other and looked at Dan Xiong again and again. Below the stage, Zhu Hongliang said jealously, he didn't even give it to me. My grandfather is really biased now. He's investing in geniuses to the death. Su Yu didn't even get a spot, but he took it away. Beside him, Xia Huyo laughed and said, Brother Hongliang, our talent is average. It's useless even if we want that spot. We might as well use the blood essence of gods and demons to cast a body. It's not worse than the effect of the Holy Land. Only people like Brother Dan can make the best use of it. Didn't our great Xia Manor also give it to Huang Teng? What did I say? Sigh, that's true. Zhu Hongliang nodded. We can give it to Dan Xiong too. I hope that he will remember our friendship in the future. Don't turn hostile and refuse to acknowledge us. That shouldn't be the case. The two of them chatted in low voices. However, who couldn't hear those experts? There was still silence. Dan Xiong's head was hurting. At this moment, Jiang Tao couldn't care about anything else. He quickly flew into the air and arrived in front of him. He quickly transmitted his voice and said, let's go. We have to leave Daming Manor immediately. We have to hurry and return to the Great Zhou Manor. Don't wait for the news to spread. We have to leave. We have to leave immediately. As for why his master didn't bring Dan Xiong along when he left, Jiang Tao didn't know what his master was thinking. But at this moment, if Dan Xiong didn't leave, the news of what happened today would spread, and Dan Xiong would be in great trouble. His divine text had already attracted everyone's attention. A divine text that was one with one. A single divine text that was disguised as a multi-divine text. A divine text that was the same as the 5th generation. No, it was even more exquisite than the 5th generation. After putting on a bitter meat trap with Su Yu and destroying his own body, he had to focus all his attention on Su Yu. What did the outsiders think? What did the 10,000 clans think? Damn it, before the news was completely leaked and the 10,000 clans had yet to react, it was only right for them to quickly bring their junior brother back. Let's go. Jiang Tao shouted, and the golden-winged Great Peng and the others also quickly followed. When Shang Tianjiao saw this, she hurriedly said, Pavilion Elder Jiang, you guys. Jiang Tao quickly said, Junior brother's injuries are not light. After he recovers, he will come and look for Princess Shang. Or, the princess can go to the Great Zhou Manor. Dan Xiong's head hurt even more as he was being pulled by Jiang Tao. He could only say, Tianjiao, I will go back and recover. You have to be careful. Next time, don't be so rash. I know you are doing this for me. But don't be so rash, okay? Okay, I'll listen to you. When Shang Tianjiao heard that he was going back to recuperate, she had no way of stopping him. She could only say, then when I have time, I'll go to the Great Zhou Manor to look for you. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1362. 1362 Chapter 317 had blown up. Xiu Monthly 4. Alright. After Shan Xiong said that, Jiang Tao quickly left with him. The golden-winged Great Peng endured the pain and hurriedly followed. When they were out of the city, the golden-winged Great Peng returned to its original form. With one of its wings broken, it could only use its yuan qi to quickly construct a fake wing. The Sun Moon Tear had the ability to be reborn from a drop of blood. It could recover, but it needed time and a large amount of yuan qi. This place was clearly not suitable for it to heal its injuries. Let's return to the Great Zhou Manor first. After they left, the old dragon from the Great Xia Manor looked at the Primordial Spirit Research Institute before looking at the place where Zhu Tiandao and Niu Baidao had left. After a long while, he shook his head and could not help but laugh. This entire nest was filled with black-hearted people. Each and every one of them was not weak in martial arts, and they were truly black-hearted. It was clearly just a sparring match, but in the end, it was forcefully made into a single divine literature department in Shan Xiong's disguise. He was a true multi-divine literature department super genius. Was that so? At this moment, even he didn't dare to confirm whether it was true or not. An unprovoked guess was very low level. But a reasonable guess wasn't low level. Your Highness Hu Yu, it's time to leave. The old dragon shouted and quickly left. This matter was not as simple as it seemed. There might be some unforeseen circumstances that followed. This included the Great Zhou Manor's response, as well as the changes that the 10,000 clans might cause. Xia Huyu hurriedly said, "Leave immediately." As he said that, he cupped his hands towards Zhu Hongliang and said, "Brother Hongliang, the next time we go to the Great Xia Manor, I'll accompany you to have a good chat and take a good look around. This time, I'll take my leave first. Take care." The two fatties appreciated each other very much. Very quickly, Xia Huyo left together with the people from the Great Xia Manor. After leaving the city, the huge white dragon instantly disappeared. As for the others, not a single one of them stayed. They all hurriedly ran away. This matter had to be reported back to the higher-ups, including those from the questing in Ares College. They had no time to care about the Great Ming Manor's request to stay. Leave. Go back and report. This was a major matter. Could divine inscriptions be fused into one? What did fused into one mean? How could they be fused into one? Also, Suyu was really quite strong. He was so strong that he was a little terrifying. These matters had to be discussed with the higher-ups. These people couldn't care less about anything else. They all left one after another. For a moment, all sorts of mounts soared into the air outside the city of Daming Prefecture. One by one, the mounts on land quickly disappeared. At the same time, news started to gather toward some people through voice transmission talismans. Su Yu won the battle between Su and Shan Xiong. His origin aperture self-detonated 144 times. Shan Xiong lost. His physical body was shattered, and his sea of consciousness was heavily injured. Shan Xiong seems to be a cultivator of many divine runes. Divine runes as one has many characteristics. He deliberately hid his strength and lost to Su Yu. He took the opportunity to leave the public sight. Top secret. The 5th generation divine runes might be the combination of divine runes. Shan Tianhao took the 5th generation divine runes and used them all for Shan Xiong to build his foundation. News quickly spread. Su Yu won. However, this wasn't the main point. That was because Shan Xiong might not have used his full strength. Su Yu might be strong, but no matter how strong he wasn't a match for the mountains and seas. Su Yu was an orthodox genius of the multiple divine runes department. His divine runes battle techniques were clear. Of course, everyone knew about the hammer that appeared later, that was the spirit-expanding art, and no one paid much attention to it. Orthodox geniuses only had a little too many physical body and yuan apertures. But Shan Xiong was not orthodox. Shan Xiong's divine writing was not simple, it was not too much. Right now, Shan Xiong's divine writing was filled with mystery. Why didn't he dare to show this divine writing to Su Yu? Jiang Tao snatched the divine writing at the first moment. From the beginning to the end, he did not dare to let Su Yu come into contact with it. He was afraid that Su Yu would kill Shan Xiong, but he still could not show it to Su Yu. Because Su Yu was an orthodox multi-god literature department genius, and he was also a researcher. What might he discover? In an instant, this news began to spread among the higher-ups. Primordial Spirit Research Institute, Four Seasons Pavilion. Niu Baidao laughed and said, "If you want to say ruthless, you are the most ruthless. How did you think of this? I feel that it's not like he has fused many divine runes into one. It's more like he has extracted and transferred the characteristics of many divine runes into one divine rune." Su Yu laughed and said, "Who knows? Moreover, the characteristic transfer is a secret technique of the Great Xia Manor's Divine Runes Department. In fact, it was sealed decades ago. The technique isn't perfect. Where did he get this technique? The Great Xia Manor actually had this technique, but it had really been sealed for decades. Moreover, the technique was indeed not perfect. In the past, Hong Tan had given up on this aspect of research in order to research his innate blood essence. Niu Baidao smiled and said, "Forget it, I don't care. In any case, this kid is now more eye-catching than you. His divine text is special, and your divine text is still considered orthodox. If you want to talk about trouble, he's bigger than you. It's good too. I'll help you attract some firepower so that everyone won't be staring at you." As he said that, he took out a huge wing and said, "This is to nourish your body. It's fresh. You kid. If you want to fight, then fight. Why did you self-destruct your own elemental aperture? You only have more than 300 points of enlightenment. Otherwise, if you self-destruct so many of your elemental apertures, you're dead for sure. It's fine. At most, your body will be shattered." Su Yu smiled and said, "I'll just continue to cultivate. From the beginning to the end, I only spent less than a year to awaken so many points of enlightenment. It's nothing. F***ck. It was a little heart-wrenching. It seemed like less than a year. Even if this fellow's physical body was shattered, did that mean that he only needed less than a year to go from Qianjun to this stage?" However, Su Yu still thanked him. "Thank you, Manor Head. These are the wings of a 5th-level Sun-Moon Great Demon. I think this blood is enough to extract 1 or 2 drops of blood essence. That golden-winged Great Arosi must have suffered a great loss this time." Niu Baidao chuckled, "Of course. It would not be good for Jiang Tao to lay his hands on him. It would be easy to provoke Zhou Polong if he were to teach him a lesson. It would not be a big deal to teach him a lesson on a mount. That mount does not belong to Zhou Polong. It is the divine guardian beast of the Great Zhou Manor's Institute of Civilization, just like the old dragon of the Great Xia Manor." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories. Chapter 1363. 1363 Chapter 317 had blown up. Chill Monthly 5. Thank you for avenging me, Principal. You're still the best. Su Yu flattered him. He was really good. The 5th level of the Sun Moon. Although it was a sneak attack, in an instant, he had captured the other party and torn off one of his wings. This principal was really not weak. You should recuperate well. These are all trivial matters. Niu Baidao laughed heartily and said, "The great Ming manner does not provoke others, but if others provoke us, we are not to be trifled with either. During this period of time, you should take the opportunity to recuperate and stay out of the limelight." "Understood. Then I'll take my leave first." Niu Baidao did not linger and left very quickly. Not long after, Zhu Tiandao also sent people over. If there was nothing else, he sent some healing medicinal pills to help Suyu recover his acupuncture points. He also sent a lot of earth origin fruits. As for the other things, everything was said without saying. There was nothing to say. The two of them joined hands and ruthlessly tricked Shan Xiong. As for whether everyone believed it or not, Shan Xiong had the ability to reveal the divine text and let the experts check it one by one. Otherwise, no matter how hard he tried, he would not be able to wash away the suspicion of the divine text being one. The divine text was checked one by one. Unless Zhou Polong completely abandoned Shan Xiong, otherwise, he would not agree. Moreover, even if it was not the integration of divine runes, it definitely involved some top-secret techniques. It was even Zhou Polong's secret technique. Zhou Polong. Yes, Suyu had not thought of Zhou Polong and did not dare to trick Zhou Polong. However, at this moment, there were already some rumors in the outside world. Shan Xiong. Zhou Polong's disciple. What was Zhou Polong's divine runes like now? Was Yi Batian II? At this moment, countless people suddenly recalled that this civilization master, the civilization master who was about to achieve the Tao, was he a physical body cultivator, or was he the same as the fifth generation? How long had it been since Zhou Polong made a move? Vaguely, there were people who knew some top secrets. Back then, some of the fifth generation's data had been stolen. Who was it that stole it? Could it be Zhou Polong? That was why Shan Xiong had appeared. Nowadays, there was no lack of people with imagination or conspiracy theories. Was Zhou Polong asking for the fifth generation's divine prose for Shan Xiong or for his own reference? What exactly did Zhou Polong's divine prose look like now? Who could go and take a look? The Quest Realm. The Dark Han King came out of seclusion once again. This matter was of great importance. He did not gather anyone else. At this moment, the Silkworm Extermination King and him were gathered together. The Silkworm Extermination King frowned and said, "Is this for real? Damn it, if this is true, that bastard Su Yu has harmed Zhou Polong. He could have quietly attained the unrivaled realm as a civilized master. This time, he's in big trouble. The great Zhou King has always wanted to activate the suppression of the human realm. Everyone knows this. Now, Zhou Polong might be the next Yi Batian. It's over, this time, we're really in big trouble." The great Han King also had a headache. I don't know if it's true or not. Zhou Polong hasn't made a move for many years, so who knows what's going on. If it's true, he's going to be even more dangerous than Xiaolongwu. The 10,000 clans will definitely make a move on him, definitely. Sigh, we're really in trouble now. On the eve of the Tao verification, something like this actually happened. This Su Yu is messing around. The Silkworm Exterminating King cursed, but he was helpless. Messing around? He wasn't Zhou Polong's person. Shan Xiong was challenging him, and Zhou Polong was the main culprit who had suppressed Lu Wenyan for decades. Even if he knew, he couldn't wait to scam him. However, to a human realm expert, this was a huge loss. It was truly a huge problem. I have to ask Zhou Polong. He might not tell the truth. No, I have to go to the heavenly battlefield and find the great Zhou and great Qin kings. If Zhou Polong has any hope of attaining Tao right away, then he must focus all his strength and help him attain Tao. Damn it, this bastard, why does he insist on Shan Xiong challenging Su Yu? Can't he endure it any longer? The Silkworm Extermination King was also anxious. The one with the greatest hope, the one with the greatest hope of becoming the first unrivaled civilized master. The great Han King nodded. Go and return quickly. In the next few days, I will patrol the world to prevent a large number of experts from the myriad races from sneaking in. I will secretly protect Zhou Polong to prevent him from being assassinated. Be careful, you must watch carefully. The Silkworm Extermination King was also extremely anxious. He had to go to the heavenly battlefield and immediately inform the unrivaled experts to discuss countermeasures. Was Zhou Polong the next Yibatian? Was his confidence high? Could he prove that he was unrivaled among civilized masters of the Tao? If he succeeded, could he really activate the suppression of the human realm? These questions flashed through the minds of the experts of the 10,000 races. The experts of the 10,000 races who had infiltrated the human race were also greatly moved at this moment. Soon, some people began to lurk towards the great Zhou residence. There were even some who returned to the heavenly battlefield to discuss countermeasures with the experts of the 10,000 races. Damn it! Lu Wenyan and the others might have been a cover. Zhou Polong had secretly attained the Tao and was unrivaled in the divine literature department. In the end, he was actually messed up by that fellow Suyu this time. He had almost succeeded. Because at this moment, everyone's focus was on Xia Longwu. Xia Longwu who had attained the Tao. As for Zhou Polong, he had almost been able to fish in troubled waters and attain the Tao together with Xia Longwu. There was a very high chance that he would succeed. At that time, once he succeeded, the 10,000 races would have no way of reversing it. He had really nearly succeeded. It had been too close. Great Xia Manor. Wan Tiansheng and Lord Xia Ho were drinking tea, and they looked at each other in dismay. After a long while, Lord Xia Ho said dryly, "You said. Are you for real? Did Zhou Polong really secretly cultivate the Tao of multiple divine languages, but he had almost succeeded in attaining the Tao? In name, he suppressed the Tao of multiple divine languages, weakening the attention of the myriad clans towards him. The great Zhou Manor had even reached an agreement with the gods and devils to suppress the Tao of multiple divine languages, giving him a chance to attain the Tao." Wan Tiansheng was a little confused. After a long while, he said bitterly, "I don't know. It's really hard to judge. This Su Yu is giving us all sorts of difficult questions." It was truly a super difficult question. At this moment, even he was a little uncertain. Was it true? Did Zhou Polong really secretly walk on the Tao of multiple divine inscriptions? With his talent, there was still hope. Then now, wouldn't all his efforts be for naught? Regardless of whether it was true or not, the myriad clans would definitely not let him easily succeed in attaining Tao. Wan Tiansheng raised his head to look at the sky. Previously, he felt that everything was under his control, but now, why did he feel that he was somewhat out of his control? Where were these problems? Su Yu. That's right, Su Yu. This kid's casual words might have been purely to frame people, but in the end, if the myriad clans wanted to blow up, the human race would also want to blow up. P.S. Beg monthly ticket bomb first I want to bomb